out of frame, man. Welcome.
Welcome. Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
Oh, I didn't see you there.
I didn't see you there.
Oh, welcome to WAHCKon Mini.
Welcome to WAHCKon Mini. I didn't see you there. Oh, there. Oh, that's better.
Oh, that's better.
I didn't see you there.
Ah, hey, who's this behind us?
Okay, so let's just do this really quickly.
I can see you.
Welcome to WAHCKon Mini. I'm Peter, otherwise known as Chronic D. This is Clinton Swiley. And why don't you introduce yourself, good friend?
I'm just some guy who was in town one time.
This
I
is
don't really know why I'm here, but
this is Nano, otherwise known as Kittis, and we've prepared a little bit of a special thing for you all. So I just want you all to enjoy our special intro video.
I feel like this video accurately describes what WAHCKon is at its core. We are trying to support local WA-based creative types and musicians. So we've got some live music in this.
We have some live pre-recorded music for you.
Yep.
And we are back!
Wow.
Wow, hack the planet!
Enjoyed the intro.
Welcome to WAHCKon, Hack the fucking Planet. So I just want to give some quick shout outs to the good people at http.live for hosting our primary stream. Good dudes. We felt we needed them in case someone 3 streets over hummed a fucking copyrighted tune and YouTube chatlisted us. So thanks to http.stream for their peer-to-peer mesh-based fucking non-corporate sellout bullshit streaming platform. Let's hope it holds up and goes well. Again, thanks to those guys. Good people. Thank you very much. And quick shouts to Loss and Swiley here for the great music in that intro, some great local art. And thanks to myself for mixing that beautiful piece of art. So I think we're all doing pretty great just there.
And Chronic D, can you tell us, is there an affiliate code that our attendees can use if they want to take part in this great http.live service?
No.
Oh, Well, maybe there should be,
Maybe there should be. All right, so we've got 8 minutes until our first speaker comes up. So why don't we just give a bit of an intro? What are we about? What is WAHCKon? I know we've got some people who haven't attended one before, so... All right, you look a bit stressed out here. I'm getting the... No, cut it. Oh, no. All right, so WAHCKon.
What WAHCKon is about is WAHCKon is a community-based, non-for-profit event which is designed to help improve the information security scene in Western Australia. We started in 2013, guys?
2013.
Yeah,
2013.
right.
Yeah. So at that point in time, there was really nothing else on the scene for people who were interested in information security, but couldn't necessarily afford to go to the big name conferences like KiwiCon or DEFCON or Black Hat or whatever else.
So certainly, the nearest conference back when we started for people in Perth was 5 hours by plane away, or 6 years by car. So it was really about serving the West Australian community. So both giving local talent a place to present their ideas, get together and gather, but also a way to bring across talented individuals to present their research to the local community.
Yeah.
So I think that was really important, and it's just grown from there. But we've had amazing support since day one. I remember the first WAHCKon. I was sitting there. We didn't expect to sell more than 5 or 10 tickets. We were pretty ready for that. We lost track. We weren't tracking ticket sales, and we had sold our total capacity plus 40 or 50. So at that point, I think we were 200 and something was our capacity.
Yeah.
And we sort of realized, oh shit, we didn't have code to stop sales at that point. We didn't think it'd be a problem. So we had to hack some stuff together really fast to just cut the sales off because we'd already exceeded our capacity. So we've had such incredible support from the local community. We've had, on average, a mix of probably 30 to 40% interstate and international speakers at each con. So we've been able to bring in a great set of people from interstate and overseas to present to the WA community.
Mm-hmm. So we've always stayed true to our roots. We've always supported the local WA information security scene, and we genuinely hope to do that tonight again.
Absolutely.
Basically, as long as WAHCKon exists, we seek to serve the WA local information security scene. So if you're out there, feel free to hit us up, and we'll try and hook you up with a presentation slot.
Absolutely. And I just want to talk about our not-for-profit background here. So we are all about serving the community. None of us make any money off this stuff. We have no paid staff at all, so it's all volunteer-driven, which is absolutely brilliant. We love our volunteers. And an important part of it is making sure we're accessible. So we are at our concession rate, the cheapest con in Australia. But we are very proud of this. To anyone who has ever not been able to pay due to their financial circumstances, we have never turned down a request for a free ticket so far. And people have been extremely respectful of that. We've never had to institute a policy where we do question people's financial requirements. So thanks to the community for treating that system well.
You know what?
And please, if you do...
No, just stop.
I was going to say, if any of you do need a ticket, hit us up, right?
We have to point out the obvious elephant in the room here. And
your face.
Unfortunately, Peter here looks a lot like James Hetfield from Metallica. So can we get you to do your best? Yeah! That's it. There you go. That was a shout out for Mark. There you go. You're welcome.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. How many viewers do we have so far? Actually, well, that's how many viewers we have there. So 30, 35 there, 50 there. But we assume each viewer we see is 100 people crammed into a room.
That's right. Since the beginning, the entire purpose of WAHCKon has been to share the community knowledge that exists. And we hope that today some people will be able to learn something from the great lineup that we have. We've actually got quite a few interesting talks that are going to be presented to you in moments, near moments. So if you have any questions today, feel free to hit us up either on live chat or via our email address, which you can see on screen right now.
Yes, reply at wahckon.org.au for all your WAHCKon related questions.
So
and also just general life questions. Like,
Yeah.
we'll do our best to answer whatever comes through to that address. Like, we have no qualms about answering your
absolutely.
your most personal, most depraved questions that you've got. So just go for it.
To a PG-13 audience.
Now, so yeah,
to
if
an
you
MA 15 plus audience.
Yep, I did select the not suitable for children option on every platform we're on, so that should be all right.
I feel like I'm at least an adult, so I can answer some of those questions.
So if you do have questions, the official way is to email to yesreply@wahckon.org.au. I'll put the email address back up. If you ask in any of the live chats, I will do what I can. But honestly, ask via email if you want your question actually answered. Yeah, cool. All right, guys. I think we're just about ready to get started. So we're going to drop off the stream for just a second while we get some stuff prepped. We'll be back in roughly 2 minutes with our first speaker. Okay, so our first speaker will be commencing in just a moment. We have Nadeem, who will be presenting adversary simulation in modern environments. Okay, Nadeem, going to you now.
Take it away, Nadeem.
Please
Hey
share
guys,
your slide deck, my man.
can you guys hear, see me? Hello? I'm assuming you guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. All right. I'm Nadeem. I'll be talking about adversary simulation in modern
Hello,
environment.
friend. Yes, you're live.
I'm assuming you guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. I think there's a bit of a lag when I'm speaking. I'm Nadeem. I'll be talking about adversary simulation in modern environments. Just a quick intro. I'm PsychSec on Twitter. I've been in OffSec since 2007. I lead NCC Group's technical practice here in Melbourne. And my areas of interest are adversary simulation, pen testing, product security. And in my free time, I play some guitar and some CSGO. So what am I going to be talking about today? I'll go through what your typical pen testing or adversary simulation phases are in the past, how that translates to modern environment, and what those attack phases look like now, and how, as a blue team, you can respond to those attacks, and what modern incident response looks like. Let's take a look at your traditional pen testing or adversary simulation phases. So if you go back to the late or early 2000s and you picked up a book on network security, you would probably see the faces of hacking like so, or something like this. And then fast forward to 2011, Lockheed Martin came up with this kill chain, which is all fancy and had a few more steps to it. And then in 2013, we got the MITRE attack framework, which basically is like your gold standard, and everyone uses this now. A lot of companies seem to be using this as well for defense and offense. And then in 2017, we got the unified kill chain, which is around 18 phases. So what I want to explain is not all these phases are used by modern attackers. Typically, you don't see so many attack phases being used at all. Most of the attack phases that we see now are less than 4 or 5. So what does your typical Windows environment adversarial simulation look like, right? So you have a fish, you get an implant like Cobalt Strike or Covenant, and then from there, you run things like Responder, you spray a few hashes, you may also run Bloodhound, you start looking...
Hey, Nadeem, share your slides.
Sorry? Oops.
We are just fixing some things up. Please hold with us.
Sorry, folks. Apparently, I wasn't sharing my screen. All right, so sorry about that. That was a fuck up on my part. So when you look at adverse simulation Windows environments, you typically have a fish, and then you have an implant like Cobalt Strike or Covenant, and then you run things like Responder, you spray hashes, you run Bloodhound, you gather AD information, stuff like groups, user information, and then you run things like curb roasting, AS rep roasting, the typical things that you run to gain access to a local admin account on a server, right? And then from there, you typically move laterally, and then you look for plaintext creds in LSAS, you dump them, or you dump the NTLM hashes, and you do that until you land on a box where you have a domain admin. And once you have that domain admin account, then you get to your objectives. Some of the things that I didn't mention here probably are Windows exploits on other boxes, or just misconfigured servers that you can use to obviously get to your objectives. Now, how does that translate to modern environments, right? So your typical, a couple of firewalls protecting your internal network just doesn't happen anymore. People have moved on and started using cloud services for most of their operations. And in a typical tech environment or a modern tech company, this is what the external infra looks like, a whole bunch of like SaaS apps. What about endpoints, right? So in modern tech companies, you hardly see any Windows laptops or boxes being used. People tend to be using MacBooks, Chromebooks, Linux boxes to do most of their ops. So your typical, payload based on Windows phishing will not work in these environments. Also, let's take a look at architecture, because that's also moved from like monolithic architecture to microservices in these modern tech companies. A lot of the server infrastructure is on AWS Lambda, for example, which is serverless, or they use orchestration tools like Kubernetes or AWS ECS. So to summarize, what are these modern environments? They're literally like third-party SaaS apps, a whole bunch of non-Windows endpoints. You have microservices, serverless, container orchestration, and most of the users are given remote access to critical apps, which have access to customer data as well. And when we used to say you got to have different passwords for different services, and then we sort of went back, and now we're saying, well, you can just sign on to a single sign-on service. You've literally just given like attackers a master key, right? So it's a skeleton key to access all these apps. So the whole thing of just having different passwords for different services is just doesn't work anymore. You also see a lot of 2FA and MFA being used to access these services, which is also which is typical of modern tech companies. So how does the whole paradigm shift from attack phases to such a phase in a modern tech environment, right? So things like phishing, initial access, persistence, additional access, and you obviously trigger detection. So how does this work? Your phishing is typically 2FA or MFA led. You have an initial access on a user's account. From there, you might just be able to get your objectives. Again, persistence. You don't really need to have an implant to do much persistence. You typically will be able to just plant yourself another account and do persistence from there, or something that isn't wiped out by password resets. You also will have things to look at in additional access, and you can obviously keep doing that and getting secrets until you trigger detection, right? So let's take a look at phishing, right? So your typical phish using emails, that really gets picked up a lot these days. So there's other ways to phish. So you look at public calendars, code repos, Trello boards, Slack channels, and you also have things like valid DKIM and SPF records. So basically, you can get around your security tooling that prevents email gateways from blocking a lot of these phishes, right? Also, 2FA and MFA is pretty much broken at this point, because you are sending your second factor along with the password. And most companies are still not using universal 2FA tokens like YubiKey, and WebAuthn is not widely adopted as well. So let's take a look at these 2FA phishing tooling, right? So you've got things like EvilGenX2, Modlishka, and CredSniper. These are great tools. They literally act like reverse proxies. So you phish a user, the user's web session will get sent to the attacker, and then you can automate tasks based on that user. But the tool that is really a game changer is Murena and NecroBrowser. So Murena and NecroBrowser were developed by Anti-Snatcher and Opay. Anti-Snatcher is well known in the community. He's written tools like Beef, and he has co-authored the Browser Hackers Handbook. And Opay works for NCC Group. He's also written a large part of the BetterCap project. So how does this tool work? So like your other reverse proxies, Murena uses the same form of getting access to the users web session, and then it passes the web session to Necro browser, which is really like a Chrome instance generator, and it uses something called Puppeteer. So Puppeteer is like your Selenium. So once the user session has been transferred to the Chrome instance, it just bounces off that and spawns other Chrome instances, and you can automate a bunch of tasks using this, right? So a typical attack scenario will be, let's say you want to attack GitHub, right? So you get Necro browser to do an automated tasking of all the things that you want to do. So things like taking screenshots of all the Git pages. You can download master repos of all the branches. You can also add an attacker SSH key, and which gives you a permanent backdoor access to that GitHub account. For things like O365, you can search automatically through Outlook, look for plain text creds, look for access tokens, all of that, as well as also searching SharePoint for files, for example. So that can all be automated with Necro browser. There's a really cool toolkit. So if you guys haven't checked it out, be sure to check it out. I'll put a link towards the end of the talk. So let's talk a bit about initial access, right? So you fish the user, and then you've got access to all these SSOs, right? So one login, Okta, O365, G Suite. And then that access will give you access to email and files. So again, you search for plain text creds, access tokens, whatever in those emails or on those files. Once you've got access to things like Okta, you can see there's a bunch of tiles, and these tiles pretty much have access to like internal Git, Confluence pages, Jira, what have you. And the interesting bit is now that you've got access to these resources, you might be able to just act on your objectives without ever having to actually own a host, put an implant, or set up a C2 server, for example, for access. So let's talk a bit about persistence. How does persistence work when you're doing attacks in this manner, right? So obviously you don't have an implant. How are you going to maintain persistence? So let's take a look at things like GApps, for example, which allows you to generate API keys and OAuth tokens. And these are generally long-lived. So you typically will have access to these tokens, and they can be used for persistence. Backdooring the cloud provider is another option. So AWS, Azure, GCP, what have you, they all will have admin accounts. AWS, for example, let's say your user has IAM privileges that you can use to abuse and get access to the admin account. That's one way that you can maintain persistence. 2FA backup codes are also great. Another interesting one is mail forwarding and mail filters. So let's say you've got access to a user's inbox. You then set up a filter and a forward, which will search through any password reset or any alerts from IT or the blue team, and then you send it to the attacker. So basically, you've got persistence in that way. VPN is also an interesting way to maintain persistence. Since everyone's sort of working from home, companies tend to give people things like OpenVPN or Cisco AnyConnect. So you've got your username and password, and then the MFA token. So for something like Cisco AnyConnect, your MFA will be tied to your O365 account. So once you've compromised O365, you've got access to the MFA token, which then gives you access to VPN. So your VPN literally becomes like your C2 because you can now access all those services. So let's say you did all of that and you still haven't got your objectives. What do you do then, right? So you look for additional access. So you literally just start looking for secrets. And in any modern environment, most of the secrets management is done by HashiCorp Vault. So if you've got access to Vault, you can just go through and search for things like API keys and other secrets. Slack history is another place to look at. Git is also another place to look at for these secrets. Confluence, Jira, SharePoint, you can find gold in most of these pages as well. Modern environments also will have some form of CI/CD pipeline to push code into prod, and these paths are usually excellent ways to get to production environments and compromise those hosts or put malicious code in there. There's always misconfigurations for build and deploy hosts. So, for example, things like Jenkins script consoles that are usually exposed are good ones to look out for. Again, all those secrets you picked up from the other phases, you might be able to use that on any of the build and deploy hosts here. Another interesting thing to check would be to actually push some code and see where that lands. So you do a commit and you see if it ends up in dev, staging, or prod. This is another good test for your blue team also to see where stuff ends up. Let's talk a bit about blue team considerations, especially around phishing. Authentication attempt correlation. Now, this is a bit tricky to do because when you're an attacker, you probably will be coming in from a different source IP. So you can look for anomalies where the user usually logs in from a couple of source IPs, and then can you work out anomaly where you're seeing other IPs come in. Quick successive logins, for example, is another one. Also, as the user changed the MFA mechanism, that's also something you can check for anomalies to see if there's been a compromise. The blue team also should probably be familiar with all those tools I mentioned before to work out how web sessions and tokens are created and how that translates to anomalies. Okay, what about protection for critical apps? Right, that's something also you should probably be thinking about. Do you want to have a separate VPN, or do you want to have separate creds for your power or admin users to access critical apps? So you can definitely start thinking about that as well. Another option would be to enable device trust. So services like Okta, for example, will have they will use client certs that are pushed down to the machine. So Okta will not only accept authentication from the user, it will also check the device or the machine to make sure that it can authenticate as well. Universal two-factor with YubiKeys, that's still pretty much the best way to defend against such attacks, especially 2FA phishing. So if you've got budget for that, probably a good idea to do that, especially for power or admin users. It's a great way to enforce that. What about blue team considerations for access and secrets, right? So you have to be proactively searching for secret exposure. You got to have a baseline for your admin and power user usage. So typically baseline what an admin and power user does, and check for anomalies based on any changes in that behavior. Bug bounties, again, they're not just for cross-site scripting bugs and subdomain takeovers. They're great at finding secrets on the internet and also any misconfigured services. What about CI/CD pipelines? Again, proactively check all your build and deploy hosts. Work with product security, build all these playbooks and processes. Like I mentioned before, you can push some code, see if that's getting picked up down the pipeline. That's also a good one for the blue team to exercise. I'd rather end this section also to talk a bit about payload-based phishing. This is still quite common, and it's quite common where you have a lot of endpoints which are similar. So let's say a company is just rolling out a lot of MacBooks and they literally don't have any others, then a payload-based phish would still be quite good to run. So typically you would have a signed and notarized app. You'd have MS Office docs with macros. They still work great in even Mac environments. DMG files with shell scripts. So you get an implant on the machine, and then it's pretty much the same as your Windows techniques. So the only difference being that most of these endpoints are managed usually by Jamf, which is like your endpoint controlling software for your Mac fleet. You can look at if you can get access to the Jamf console with admin access. Can you look at other users? Again, what the EDR is, prompt for creds, search for secrets. Persistence mechanisms would be slightly different. You can use things like browser extensions to maintain persistence. If you're on the VPN, you can spray other machines on the environment. Obviously, not SMB, SSH. You can deploy keyloggers. Your typical things that you did in your Windows environments, like port scanning, look at misconfigured servers, exploits, and then obviously doing all of that, you will be able to get your objectives. How does your blue team protect against this form of phishing? Again, look at spawning from Office applications to like bin, ZSH, curl, OSA script. The same with Python. Another cool tool that Apple released from, I think it's Mac OS Catalina, is Endpoint Security Framework. That can be used by tools like Process Monitor and App Monitor to look at, again, look at anomalies in how processes are interacting on the machine. Let's also talk a little bit about modern incident response. So obviously, you have to triage every alert because that alert could be the one. Ideally, you'd want a single resource managing an incident. So if you've got a large team, you want just a single person to talk to management and let the technical team do their work and then feed that back to management. All those, well, I guess the other thing is there's a lot of noise during an incident, so you want to keep the noise level really low. If you look at third-party SaaS apps, all those apps that I mentioned before, you need to have logs for all of that. And obviously, any access to customer or confidential data also need to be logged. So if you've got 3 months of logs, great. 6 months of log, even better. The better your log retention, the better you will do at an incident. There's also the human element during an incident. So, show that empathy to the user and like treat them and find out what's happened. This might sound bad, but make the most of an incident, right? So if you don't have the budget, it's a good time to go to management and say, well, we need more money to do the stuff. If you're looking for more resources, might be a good time to get more guys on board in your team to do that as well. So in summary, we have to start thinking about breaking away from the older sort of thought process, like you can't hack like it's in the 2000s anymore. You can't just follow stuff on Hacking Exposed and gain access to all these objectives. It doesn't work. 2FA and MFA phishing is becoming like very mainstream. You don't actually need any exploits or implants when you can abuse user trust. Payload-based phishing is still quite popular, and access to like customer data, critical apps, you need to be thinking about whether power users or admin users need like separate creds. Should they be on a separate VPN? Should you be giving them universal two-factor tokens like YubiKeys? Should they be using trusted devices? All of that. And again, robust logging is the key to detection and response. And I guess I'll leave you with this quote from Bruce Schreiner. It's amateurs hack systems, professionals hack people. And all the links from the tooling that I mentioned is on this QR code. Thanks.
Okay, it looks like we have some questions coming in. So Nadeem, please stay connected. We will relay those in just one moment. What is it?
All right.
Okay, it looks like we have some questions coming. Go.
Okay, so we've got a few questions coming through from blue teamers of all people. I know we don't usually associate with such types, but in these rare circumstances, we're willing to make an exception. Okay, so 3 questions. Ready? Go.
Yep.
Now that companies are shifting their Active Directory environments to cloud more, do you try to achieve global administrator in Azure similarly to how traditionally attackers try to achieve on-prem domain admin, or is it not worth it?
Yeah, look, I think it depends on what environment you are looking for. So if you want to pivot from Azure AD to on-prem, that's a good idea. But if you just want to like act on your objectives, you don't really need to do that. So if you've got global admin access, that admin may not have access to critical data or apps, right? He could just have the functionality to actually admin things, but not actually have access to data. And that might not be in your objectives. But if you want to pivot internally to on-prem, it's a good idea to actually escalate to global admin then.
The second part of that 3-part question. Do you often utilize cloud management portals, e.g., AWS, GCP, or Azure, to reach your objectives quickly, similarly to popping an ESXi host? So, is it much easier with cloud or a more reliable attack path?
Yeah, sure. Look, like I mentioned, like when we do get access to um, with like IAM users, for example, right? So if you've got an IAM user that can quickly abuse a privilege to get admin access, then yeah, that's definitely the path to take. So you get that user's role, and you basically abuse that user's role to gain access to as an admin. Once you're admin in that environment, you can pretty much do a lot of bad things, I guess. And you can find out if there's other paths that you can take to achieve your objectives. Definitely, that's something that we really do a lot when we do these things.
Okay, and the final part of that question. So I guess this is more of a qualitative question for you, Nadeem. From your experience, how mature are companies in their cloud security, or what do they often lack during your engagements for their cloud infrastructure security?
Yeah, look, I think tech companies just buy into a lot of stacks. So they literally just go in and say, "Oh, we'll just buy, CrowdStrike, Jamf. We'll get, everything that has all the bells and whistles." But they don't actually invest a lot in security, is what I've seen. And when they do, they usually just get all these like stacks and not actual people to look into all of this stuff and see what's happening in their network. They usually have a smaller team because they'd rather have security engineers looking after the app side of things and looking at code rather than a lot of money thrown into CorpSec. So if you get owned through your Corp environment, it's quite easy to actually, pop your products, right? So I think that's the way attackers are sort of moving now. So the idea is you get into someone's Corp environment, and then you pop the apps, because everything that's on the internet is, you can bug bounty that off, or you can get external testers to test your apps. But that whole aspect of your simulation type exercises where you actually send phishing emails, all of that stuff, that's not being done as much because they feel that the app security is much more worth protecting rather than the actual corporate infrastructure. And I think we're seeing a lot of money being thrown around just to get these stacks. They think that we buy a few tech stacks and we'll be all good, which isn't the case. You need to be investing in people. Does that make sense?
Okay, thanks, Nadeem. I appreciate the discussion there. Don't see any other comments or questions from the viewers, apart from one potentially deflammatory comment from one of our viewers who was questioning whether I was drinking water. I do have to clarify this situation. It has been incorrectly stated that this is water. In fact, my colleague and I are drinking a mixture of gin and tequila at the moment. This is,
As is WAHCKon tradition, tequila is not optional.
Yep.
Much to our own disgust, really. In all circumstances.
This is not a situation we'll be in
involved
personally, but it's just a necessity of the situation. But thanks so much, Nadeem. That was a very insightful talk.
We're going to do the clapping.
Sorry about the slide.
Thank you, Nadeem.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right. So that was Nadeem speaking about adversary simulation. So thank you very much for being a part of WAHCKon Mini, our first online event. We had some teething problems, but I think we're doing all right. So yeah, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And you're free to go. I know it's pretty late there. So again, thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Yay. All right. So that was actually my favorite talk from Nadeem there.
That was my favorite talk
Oh,
of the
was it? Oh,
conference.
really?
I really enjoyed that talk, and I feel like there's not going to be a better talk than that one.
I've been looking
Okay.
forward to that talk ever since this conference was announced. So
Absolutely.
I'm really glad that we got it.
But
in
you know
all
what?
seriousness,
I
was really looking forward to hearing that.
100%.
So,
But
yeah.
in all seriousness as well, genuinely coming up is my favorite talk of the conference.
The next talk.
Yeah, the next talk.
Yeah, the
is
next
my
talk is
favorite
actually
talk.
our favorite presentation.
It's
So-
genuinely our favorite talk.
We're just going to duck out for about 30 seconds, and shortly you'll be seeing USB Type-C rules. And this is actually an anonymously presented talk, something we're trying out, given we can with the online format. So, like I said, we're just going to do some magic to cue this up, given it's a bit different. It will be back in about 30 seconds, so thank you very much. And USB Type-C rules coming up shortly. Sorry, just one moment. The box which relays our recorded streams is messing up a little. Give us 20 seconds.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
Oh, hey, man, I didn't see you there.
Hey, welcome to our talk at WAHCKon Mini.
WAHCKon Mini.
This is a talk that's very, very special for both of us because this is a topic that's very close to both of our hearts. We're talking about how much we love USB Type-C.
USB Type-C fucking rules. Do you remember when we first heard about this? Or like, we talked about it. The interim was going to be shit. There was going to be a lot of extra cables with the USB-C on one end, whatever.
Both of us were really psyched for it.
But we're like, it's going to be a few rough years, and then finally all the cable dramas are going to be over. We're going to have just USB Type-C cables, and they'll work for everything. It'll be fucking amazing.
One cable to rule them all.
One cable to rule them all.
What else do you want? So just a quick brief introduction to us. Who are we? Well, we are nobody. We're anonymous. So,
yeah, we're presenting this talk anonymously as a thing, so that's pretty good.
As we were entitled to do so for WAHCKon Mini, we were encouraging... Sorry, I heard that WAHCKon Mini was encouraging
people to
present anonymously. So, you know, that's what we're doing. We're taking that liberty.
This anonymously.
Okay, one connector to rule them all.
Oh, man. No hundreds of cables.
How much do you hate HDMI cables? And how much do you hate the little boots on Ethernet cables? You know, like when you just can't, like, unplug the
plus,
fucking
like,
things?
now I need to find a fucking USB 3 Type B fucking cable dumb shit.
Oh, I bought this cheap piece of shit IoT device off AliExpress and it only has a USB mini fucking connector and I don't have a cable for that anymore because I haven't had one in 14 years.
And now it's like, oh no, now I need this thing to that thing, and it's like, you need 50 million cables.
Daisy chaining a bunch of adapters.
Man,
fucking
sucks. So we're now in the situation, USB Type-C, one cable, does everything. Fuck yes!
One cable, my man, one cable. All right. Look, in all honesty, USB Type-C sucks a ton.
Yeah.
It's a fucking mess.
So I knew there were at least 8 types of USB Type-C to Type-C cable available. I think, like, while preparing the slides, we found a whole bunch more. If you want to count them for us, especially at the end, there's a couple of extra bonus cables we just found out about. Didn't realize. Anyway.
And you think they look identical visually, but they will possess vastly different capabilities and compatibility. So, you know, if you've got a cable of one spec, maybe your device that depends on it having particular features won't work at all, or will work in a degraded capacity. And there's no fucking way to know by looking at the goddamn cable.
Now, what doesn't make us angry here is the interfaces. In generally, like those interfaces...
Well, actually, yes, it does.
No, it makes me less angry. The interfaces generally are pretty good at negotiating down to, like, the minimum common supported protocols. You just hope that those line up. The thing that makes me really angry is, like, I've now got to, like, make sure the cable also supports that minimum set of shared protocols between the two devices. And I honestly don't know what the devices support, let alone the fucking cable. And looking at all of this tells me nothing.
Well, this tells you how many megabytes this is actually consuming.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, all right.
All right.
So we're going to go through some of these standards here.
So why don't you tell me about USB 2?
So USB 2.0 was actually the follow-up to USB 1, which was a pretty hot standard at the time. Did you use that?
I did.
That's pretty cool.
It was great.
So USB 2...
USB 1 was half duplex, wasn't it?
Well, I think some of it was.
Yeah,
I think that was 1.0.
I think it was. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure 1.1 wasn't. Fuck, I don't know. Anyway, USB 2 is like 480 megabits. That's pretty sick. You can have a 4-meter cable length. Fucking amazing. And, get this, it supports a maximum current of either 3 amps or 5 amps.
Actually, I think USB 2 is half duplex as well.
Look, I don't know. I'm sure someone will write us an angry email and correct us on that shortly.
Hey, if you're out there on the interwebs and you have access to, like, your search engine like Bing or
and you want to feel like a big man,
or some shady Russian search engine, and you want to feel like a big man, please send all your complaints through to...
All right, sick. What's this one?
This is USB 3.1 Generation 1.
Wait.
And look at the cool little, if you look on the side, you'll see the cool little logos they've added to differentiate it from previous versions of USB. So now they're adding super speed because, you know, it's not just good enough that the new standard supports...
It's super speed certified.
Exactly. Super speed certified USB.
But how long can my cable be?
And actually, if you'll notice, there's arrows going in both directions. I think that was the first specification of full duplex USB.
Oh, I see. Yeah, maybe.
Because remember we used to have those fucking USB Ethernet adapters and they, like...
Oh, God, don't. Just...
Don't even go there?
Don't.
All right.
We've got to keep this moving. Our talk's pretty short. So 5 gigabit, 2-meter cables this time, sometimes 5 amps. Now, really cool here, this was actually used to be called USB 3.0. And now it's called USB 3.2 Gen 1X1.
Very nice. All right, now we've got USB 3.1 Generation 1 with DP alt mode and eMark.
What the fuck does that mean?
Say, guy number 1, what the hell is an eMark?
eMark is basically a required chip that sits in both ends of the cable in the connector and serves to inform the devices that are connected to it of that cable's capabilities.
Fantastic. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are a number of meanings for the term DP. Under this context, though, what does DP mean?
DP alt mode, it refers to DisplayPort alt mode. So it essentially means that the cable supports the ability to tunnel video over the USB connection.
Whoa!
Wow.
And again, you've got the fancy both directional arrow super speed certified USB label and that cool little like SS with a USB logo just like spawning out of it.
That's pretty sweet.
That is just unbelievable artwork. Hats off to the USB spec. Now, this is where it starts to get even better because at this point they've already used the super speed logo to denote that 5 gigabits was fast enough. Now they have to up that because they've got 10 gigabits capability in the USB 3.1 Generation 2 cables.
So this would be a super speed plus 10 gigabit cable.
Super speed plus 10 Gbps.
Now these cables can only be 1 meter long.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Now this has been recently renamed to USB 3.2 Gen 2 X1.
Mm-hmm.
They decided they're just going to clarify all the naming schemes. So
yeah, they've tried to simplify the naming.
It did not work.
Okay, now we have USB 3.1 Generation 2 full featured with DP Alt mode and eMark. And as we mentioned before, DP Alt mode and eMark DP Alt mode is basically being able to tunnel DisplayPort and video over the USB spec, and an eMark is a little chip in both ends of the cable which tells the connecting device what capabilities the cable has.
Sweet.
And like the previous slide, this one also is 10 gigabits per second, which is starting to get lightning fast.
Now, it's also worth noting,
lightning fast.
Whether or not it supports video, it uses the same logo. So let's imagine everything is labeled correctly. You're not going to find a cable which is, but let's imagine for a second everything was labeled with the correct logos. There is no logo difference to indicate support for video.
Great. All right, now we move on to Thunderbolt 3 passive. So Thunderbolt was the specification which was kind of co-developed between Apple and Intel as a way to kind of push USB out of the market when USB 2 and 3 were just basically too crap to actually use in modern devices. So, what can you tell us about Thunderbolt 3 passive?
Well, okay, so it's a passive cable, so it doesn't have any chips in either end of the cable. It is completely straight through with a ton of wires. But in order for it to be supported passive without those chips in there, it can only be half a meter long. If it's over half a meter, the specification requires that it have chips in it. Those fancy ass eMark chips. But anyway, we don't have those. It can drive a single 4K display. It does 40 gigabit. It's pretty sweet. And it sometimes supports 5 amps.
Okay, and then you've got Thunderbolt 3 active, which is basically the same thing, except it has those little fancy chips in it, which do things.
Yeah.
And as a result, the maximum length can be exceeded to 2 meters.
Sweet.
Now, interestingly, Thunderbolt 3 actually does support multiple 4K displays daisy-chained through the DisplayPort 1.2. If the hardware interface supports DisplayPort 1.2, that protocol will
Now it's very important to understand this is not DP alt mode.
No,
this is not display tunnel over USB.
This is native DisplayPort within the actual Thunderbolt interface.
What's really interesting is USB is an alt mode for Thunderbolt 3. So USB 3 and for all sorts of different USB can be tunneled over Thunderbolt.
Yep.
Right, and you can within that tunnel DP alt mode again.
Yep.
So you could have your display running through the USB tunnel in a DP alt mode tunnel within that. Or you could have DisplayPort tunneling through Thunderbolt 3 basically next to the same layer as USB that can be tunneled through it as well.
Sweet.
Fuck.
All right, now we've got on to USB 4.0. Which has speeds of either 40 gigabits per second or 20 gigabits per second, again, depending on the cable, obviously. Max length of 2 meters and same power requirements as previously.
Now, all USB 4.0 cables are required to be active. So we're no longer saying it has those eMark chips, it just does. Basically, any USB standard above 10 gigabit has to have that.
Yep.
There's no passive version of USB above 10 gigabit. So it does either 40 or 20, depending on your cable, interfaces, and so on. Max length of 2 meters, does 3 amps or 5 amps, and it will support at least one display. But there is no minimum resolution that must be supported in order to be USB 4 certified. But it does have to support video. You could support 1 pixel by 1 pixel and meet the criteria and get certification.
And you'll notice that there's new fancy logos on the right-hand side which denote the speed of the cable. However, the likelihood of those actually appearing on any cables that you buy from AliExpress is very, very low.
Or that you buy anywhere else.
Or that you buy
where are you
branded.
Maybe Monster cables might have them if you get like really good Monster cables.
If you get the titanium shielded, platinum insulated diamond cable from Monster, probably will have that logo.
If any of you out there exclusively use Monster cables, please let us know if they have the logos on them.
All right, we got Thunderbolt 4 passive.
Oh, sweet.
Man, this is starting to get pretty tedious. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, there's also a bunch of fucking shit in here we didn't cover. God fucking damn it.
Alright, let's go. Come on, move.
40 or 20 depending on the cable. This is
dumb.
a max length. There's a typo here that says 2 meters. That should be 0.5 because that's the passive.
4.0
my bad.
active.
Same thing.
Same thing.
2 meters, sick. What's really cool about Thunderbolt 4 is as of this moment, in order to be Thunderbolt 4 certified, it has to support USB 2, 3.1, 3.2, 4.0, 1.2, and every possible alt mode, including every existing power delivery standard. We did not go into power delivery standards. We're not going to. That's a whole other shit show. But in order to be Thunderbolt 4 certified, it has to support every single USB-C compatible standard as it exists today. So if you buy yourself a Thunderbolt 4 cable, it'll just work.
All right, and here's a matrix of like USB capabilities, which is not comprehensive as it excludes basically all the Thunderbolt stuff that also uses USB-C. Obviously, we're talking about the cables,
not the interfaces.
Not the interfaces.
Here's some
connectors with some logos. If you're fortunate, you might see some of these.
If any of you actually have cables with the logos on them, please fucking tell me. I'd be stoked to see that. I don't believe they're real.
I've definitely got a cable with a Thunderbolt logo on it, and we tested it before, and I'll show you in a second. But
that actually was Thunderbolt 3. Now, let's imagine you're like, okay, now I know I'm completely fucked, and all the cables are different, and I don't know which I have. How do I know what cable I have? Well, for like 50 to 100 bucks, you can buy yourself a little protocol analyzer that'll tell you what sort of cable you have, as long as it's an active cable.
Yep.
Only works on active cables. Passive cables, just go kill yourself. You'll never find out.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see here on the right, you've got a couple of little pictures there showing. So one of those is your monitor cable, isn't it?
Correct. The top right corner is a picture of my monitor cable, which is apparently reporting as a Thunderbolt 3, and it's running USB 4 Generation 3 at 40 gigabits per second. That's a very good cable.
That is a good cable. I'm pretty jealous of that cable.
Yeah, that's a good cable. On the bottom right, we've got your monitor cable, guy number 1. You fucking dox me.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post.
And
that's running USB 3.2 Generation 2 at 10 gigabits per second.
Sick. And you'll see there, just at the top, it says vid 0. That's indicating it supports DP alt mode.
Sick. Okay, one cable to rule them all.
So there is actually one cable to rule them all.
There is one. And
right
you want to buy a certified active Thunderbolt 4 cable, which currently is backwards compatible with all versions of USB Type-C. And look, it is right now, but it soon won't be.
Yeah, as soon as there's another standard, it won't support it.
Yeah.
But right now it does. I've recently done some checking around. You can buy an active TB4 cable for $120.
Great.
Sick. I'm going to replace all my cables with those to solve all the fucking confusion.
Okay, so to summarize, USB Type-C does suck a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't suck a small amount. I'm going to be
honest with you.
And
that's basically it. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot more to say.
Makes me really fucking angry.
Closing remarks there, guy number 1?
Shit makes me angry.
Go see an anger management therapist.
I'll see your fucking face.
I'll see your fucking face.
Glass you.
Smash you, bro. I'll smash you.
Don't smash me, bro.
I'll knock you.
Fuck. All right, we're just going to open for questions. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to send those in, and we might answer them.
All right.
Hey! Oh wow! So that.
Hey, I didn't see you there.
I didn't see you there.
Oh wow! Where were you?
I didn't see you. I was over there.
Oh,
all right, guys. Okay. So that was a great talk. Did any questions come in?
We have so we've got on the socials we got one link to a catch.com Belkin 1 meter to USB-C to USB-C cable in black color.
Oh shit! And it's got the symbols on it.
It's got the symbols. It's super speed. It's 10 gigabits per second, my friend. We don't know.
Price on that
We don't know what this cable actually comes in at, but it's coming in at a cool $29
Well, that might be $2.99. Do you just want to widen your window there?
No, my
No,
computer can't do that.
$2.99.
It's
$29.95. Okay.
It's down from $39.95 for a cable that does 10 gigabits per second.
Honestly.
All
I
right,
would call
kids. So
suspect.
that
I don't
was
think
a
so.
wonderful talk just then. So we had no questions.
No, but we did have a request from a member of the audience to provide a shout out to one David Cooper, who is currently residing in the United Kingdom and may or may not have COVID.
What isn't he actually a WAHCKon shareholder?
I believe David Cooper owns one of the 10,001 WAHCKon shares.
Wonderful. Now, given that we are a not-for-profit, those shares are worth $0. Excellent.
Shame,
Yes.
he could have retired to
However,
the Caribbean.
We are not discouraging speculative trading on WAHCKon shares.
We're willing to create NFTs. Actually, we need to create an NFT for WAHCKon. We'll sell the whole thing.
I feel like we need to have an NFT that designates that maybe you're an attendee of WAHCKon.
Really? That sounds like quite an interesting idea.
We should consider that and see if something like that
In
maybe
the next
comes up
few
later.
hours, we will
Oh
consider
crap!
that
It's
event.
time to bring in our next speaker. Excellent. So our next, this is actually my favorite presentation that's
This
coming
is
up.
my favorite presentation
I've been
coming
waiting
up.
for
I've
this
been
one
waiting
all
for this
week.
one.
Oh
for a
man,
while,
this is
yeah.
going to be great. We have our good man, Trent. Here we go. Here we are. Look at there. It's Trent. Hey, Trent. We can't hear you right now, but I trust you're speaking. It's hold on.
The host has muted me, so that, I don't know, could be related.
There you
Computers are pretty
go. Whatever Trent's saying, I'm sure it's great. We don't have Luke back in here at the moment, but
Beautiful.
everyone else can hear you. Trent, say something funny, knowing that we don't know what you'll be saying.
I'll say something funnier than the last talk is my goal. Thank you very much.
I hope that was funny.
I love that joke.
Thank you.
All right, so
right, take
here
it away,
is Trent with Cobra Effect for Sales Weasels.
Thank you. Hello. Let me just quickly... Yeah, you can see it. Beautiful. All right. So, hello, Cyber Warriors. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to my talk. It's called Cobra Effect for Sales Weasels. It's not designed for sales weasels. It's designed for people that have to deal with them. The goal is a behind-the-scenes look at sales motivations, how to avoid incentivizing the wrong kind of behavior, how to identify actions that are caused by that negative sort of incentivization, and how to navigate it as a person having to live in the world. So first of all, who is this guy? Has this guy ever hacked a thing? Super simple answer there. I've worked in cybersecurity for a few years. I've also worked in some adjacent industries, so infrastructure as a service, software as a service, all in a sales point of view. I also started off in Apple, worked there for 5 years in their corporate education B2B. And at uni, I worked for 3 years managing a store in a dungeon called Tactics, selling people magic cards and nerd anime stuff. But I do really enjoy systems. I enjoy both building them and breaking them. So from a building point of view, I have some writing credits on a number of role-playing games. I also run and create a variety of them. I've also been involved in writing and running live-action role-playing. So if you imagine 200 people running around a forest for a couple of days, screaming magic missile and throwing things at each other and hitting people with foam swords, that kind of thing, which involves a bunch of nerds trying to break stuff. On the breaking things side of things, I work in sales, and my compensation is half a normal salary, half a various set of Byzantine instructions I have to follow to get money out of that someone else built that wants me to do a thing for them. And I really enjoy getting the most out of that, as well as getting the most out of all the different gaming things that I do. So why should you care about this? This isn't really a hacker talk. Oh God, this guy's tricked us into listening to something about sales. You will get 0 tips for shell bells from this. But a lot of people that work in cybersecurity are going to work in consultancies at some point in their life. And as a result of that, you're going to work with salespeople who are going to be building proposals with you, who are going to go to scoping meetings with you, who are going to ask you to do a bunch of stuff. And a lot of the times you're going to come out of those meetings or those requests and not really understand why they're asking it or what their motivations are. Those motivations might be contrary or seem contrary to the client's interests or even the business interests, and they very well might be. The other thing is that I'll show you some things that people have written that seem really dumb, and you'll figure out in about 10 seconds after looking at it, and you'll feel super smart that you're better at business than some other people. All right, so undesired outcomes happen all the time. You have a design of something, and then it doesn't go to plan. So you build something, you want to achieve something, and it goes super wrong. So for example, you hire some staff to sell things to make the company money. But what if the staff put their own interests first and want to make their own money? Sure, straightforward. Let's say you build a web form and you want it to get the right data. Crazy idea. What if someone puts in the wrong data and then it does something different? It seems unbelievable, but it definitely can happen. What if you want to run a game with a fun adventuring party of a balanced group of things doing all different stuff, and then everyone's just a wizard instead? These things can just go wrong in any sorts of things. The Cobra effect is perverse incentives. It's where you not only try and create something and get a bad outcome from it, but your incentives actually create that bad outcome. And the titular Cobra effect, I'll run through for you here. So let's say you are a British person in India and you're doing a colonialism and you want to get rid of cobras. You have a bunch of cobras, too many cobras. Difficult situation to imagine because I'd love more cobras, but let's say you wanted less. You then go, all right, I'll do a capitalism to get rid of these cobras because capitalism solved everything and colonialism and capitalism go together so well. I'll put a bounty on cobra heads. I'll pay people to bring them in. Easy, makes sense. You can just solve any problem with capitalism. And then the effect is that there's no more cobras and they're all gone, or someone just realizes that you can make 10 times your average salary by just breeding cobras and selling their heads. And then you realize that you've put a bounty on it, you've made a bunch of cobras, you roll back the bounty, and then they release their cobras on the street because they're not worth any money. That's the kind of core Cobra effect when you screw up what you're trying to do. So I'll now go into some totally hypothetical examples from companies that don't exist and I've just made up in my mind. So first type of commission that you'll see is a trail commission. So let's say you've got a long-term contract where someone signs up for a plan for multiple years for some sort of good and or service. And then you pay your salespeople 5% of all monthly revenue for their accounts. So you get given a bunch of accounts, you sell a thing for all eternity that they're with the company, and these are long-term contracts, you're looking at 3-5 years, you get 5% of everything they spend. Seems pretty good. Maybe you can see some problems, maybe you can't. Problem is, at a certain point, you're starting paying people $200K a year to do literally nothing, except maybe send an email every quarter going, you all good? Yep, fine, great, easy. Now they could go and earn more money, but they're already earning insanely good money. They're already earning plenty. And earning $200K for nothing, like literally nothing, compared to maybe earning $250, $300K for actually doing work, terrible trade-off, couldn't recommend it, who would do it? The bonus round is that company also, that hypothetical company, also paid their marketing based on the impressions of people visiting their website, not actually the conversions to sales or any actual sales that came out of it, but just how people looked at the website. That doesn't make you money either. All right, the other one is a really, really common one. So you just have all or nothing targets. Super simple. Sell 10K by the end of the month. If you hit your target, you get some money. If you don't hit your target, you don't get any money. Probably the most basic commission structure out there and one that gets used all the time. Problem for that one, let's say you have to sell $10,000 worth of stuff by the end of the month. You're in the last week and you've only sold $4,000. But you've got like $2,000 worth of stuff that's about to close. Do you try really hard to sell this extra 3K and push it through? Maybe you do it, maybe you don't. Or you just go, all right, I'll take the L on this month and then I'll just keep this 2K, roll it over to the next month. Even if the client sends me like a purchase order, I'll just leave that in my inbox. I'll slow roll it with a quote. And then beginning of the next month, I'll start off with 2K flat. Yeah, I missed one, but it means that I guarantee it. So you can have this hypothetical where you hit your target 3/4 of the time, or you hit your target None of the time. It's basically like gerrymandering, but for your sales targets. Insanely bad. The other side is that you can sometimes pull forward deals, which is often what they want to incentivize, but you can really piss clients off as well. There might be, we've got money for this budget, it becomes unlocked next FY, let's do it. And then you're pressuring them to pull it forward. They've got plans, everything's all fine, same amount of money in the end, but for you to shift it forward 1 week gets you paid bad. All right, the last one, specific buckets of money. So if you might be a consultancy that sells a variety of different services, or you might just want to grow some particular areas. So you specify that your salespeople have to sell a number of different things and have a threshold for each before they get paid anything. This makes sense if you've got people on the bench that aren't working, or if you've got something you want to particularly focus. But you have to be really quite careful about it. The problem is, obviously, people will talk to your client, like your salespeople will talk to clients, and they'll go, "Oh, we want to buy thing A." And they go, "Ooh, what about thing B instead?" That you incentivize not solving problems, but instead dragging people in a different direction. Can also cause deals to just be abandoned to not fit the target. You end up going, "All right, I need to sell this one thing. I'm just going to go and find the person that's got the money, sell them this thing, whether it's actually good for them or not." Insanely bad. All right, some solutions. This is unfortunately, actually fixing things. So threat modeling, you've heard of it before. Your sales team are going to functionally red team your testing model, but not really red team. They're just going to be the bad guys, and they're just going to get the most money out of it. But you've got people for this. If I was running a business, I would definitely take my commission model, show it to my testers, show it to my smart people, show it to people that like breaking things, and go, how would you break this? What would you do? And the kind of people that you're likely to hire for your sales team are the ones that you've deliberately detected as like the ones that are going to be money motivated. They're there to make the most for themselves. You've built this system where you're going to get people that are of a type of personality, and you need to make sure your structure encourages them. So the second part is really you need to have that communication. Codify the intent of the plan, of your KPIs, of what you're trying to look at. What are your actual goals? What do you want to get out of this? Don't just put a number on it. Say, we need to hit this amount of sales in order to prop up our share price. Sure, whatever. We need to get this amount of utilization to get our team skilled up. Or, we want to get under this utilization. We want to get over this. This is what we're aiming for. And actually, treat people like adults. Talk about what you want to get out of the business. And that then leads into the third part, which is just be cool about it. So if you come across a situation where you're forcing your salesperson to either make a choice, which is, do I make benefit myself or benefit the company? You never want that. Like I said, you want vampires, that's how you get vampires. What you want to do is you want to go, all right, come to us. Now we've understand the intent. We know what this is for. If you come to me and say, hey, if I do thing A, you pay me $10,000, but I think doing thing B hits the intent better, it helps the customer better, but due to this commission model, I don't get paid, talk to them. If there's that flexibility, that's super important. You can change that. The downside of that is, of course, don't do a sexism, don't do a racism. When you have these way more flexible, let's just be cool, let's just talk about it kind of things, your inherent biases are going to kick in. So if you do break away from the rules and have a bit of a chat about it, you want to make sure that you're communicating these results to everyone, you're providing that information. And in general, you just want to be able to talk more about the work environment that you're at and what those kind of KPIs are. Some of my best interactions with my peers have been to say, hey, what kind of KPIs are you trying to hit? What numbers actually matter to you, so that when we're doing work, we can all hit that. You can just do the same thing with clients as well. And I think that kind of openness is really important, that everyone can hit it. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing really else particularly solid that you should change in the KPI thing. Just nothing else like that. All right. Do we have any questions for that one? I know it's a really short talk. What do we got?
Joe.
All right, we've been drawn into the.
All right.
Okay, drawn into the live stream. And yeah, we have currently no questions on the socials for this talk. If you have any questions, please deliver them in the next few seconds to yesreply@wahckon.org.au. Our email address is on the screen right now. Please deliver your questions there, and we will get to answering them as quickly as we can. Thank you very much.
in the chat. Nothing about some sort.
Shout out to Big D. Shout out to Big D on the socials. Thank you for your support, Big D.
So, do any of you guys know any jokes? Trent, maybe?
I saw a con talk earlier that was a joke.
Which one was that?
No questions?
Any questions? All right, I have a question.
Hit me up.
What's your opinion on sales?
A really precise question that's exactly perfect for this kind of medium. Really appreciate your keen mind here, Peter.
You're welcome.
Ultimately, sales is a kind of parasitic middleman, but facilitating commerce is kind of useful. Ideally, people would just be able to enter the market of free ideas and choose the stuff that's needed. But the way I kind of view sales is that a lot of the time people don't know what they need, and talking to someone who can actually dive a bit deeper and find out their business need and match it to a particular product is kind of useful. But I know, ideally we pass this.
One moment. All right. So just an interesting thing. You mentioned the marketplace of ideas.
With the heavy irony, but yeah.
Yeah. How do you think that could operate under, let's say, a more communist model? How would we exchange ideas under communism?
Well, I think a communist sales model is a challenging but kind of neat idea, right? Because in your communist model, you'll have your worker ownership. But actually, like, explaining things to people is a type of labor. It's not so much that you're going to be benefiting from people in terms of like exploiting what they're doing, and then you're a middle layer that just siphons stuff off. I think there is some actual valuable addition of being that person that then finds people and has a conversation. But ultimately, that would require much more of an equal spread. If only I'd done a slide or at least a little paragraph about this.
Excellent. That was wonderful. I wasn't listening. Apparently, HTTP.live has gone down, so we're just getting the YouTube link out to everybody and spreading that around a bit more.
Oh, we do have an actual question from a viewer.
Hit me up.
From a Sammy, we have, how much does Trent make?
Yeah, I'll talk about that all the time. So at my previous role, I made about a 40-60 split of my base salary and commission. And that base was 65K. So it was a fairly low for a professional kind of experience. At my new role that I may legally start, now, hit me up. I'm happy to talk salary at any time. Less so when I'm on gardening leave from one place and still in discussions for the next, though.
Fair enough. By the way, Trent, you probably can't say this, but I look forward to working with you.
What? At WAHCKon?
Likewise.
Yeah, at WAHCKon. Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah, absolutely.
I can see a couple of questions here in the comments. I'll just quickly jump in and
okay, go for it.
Those. So I've got Jacob. Out of the hypothetical situations you've explained, how many have you seen in industry? All of them. 100% of all of them. These are all part of it. You have some very complicated commission structures and some very simple ones. Neither one of them are necessarily good or bad. I can say in my experience, every single time I've come across a bad one, I've come up to my boss and said, this is what I want to do, and this is what you're actually incentivizing. Do you want to change that? And sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. I think the bigger the organization, the harder it is to change things, and I think people need to be a lot more flexible. Do you have some examples from Bonzi eBooks, love the name, of viable incentive models, bonus schemes that are less prone to blatant exploitation? I know some good ones. I think there's more, it depends on the industry and depends on the thing that you want to incentivize. I think what you want to do is really nail the actual behavior that you want to create and what you're incentivizing. So I think, for example, that really quite broad bonuses that are based on a larger number of KPIs are better without a hard hit. So you sort of go, all right, these are the kind of things we're looking to achieve as an organization, rating people in some different schemes, and go from there. How long have I been a pen tester from Jack? Yeah, my absolute favorite thing in the world is talking to people and pretending that I know about computers, and then someone asking, "Are you a consultant or a pen tester?" Absolutely my favorite. Thank you, Jack. Trent, would gaming a commission structure lead to dismissal? It's a good point. So it depends how you game it and depends how obvious you are. If you just do what you're doing, so any sort of job with a commission scheme will also have a code of conduct or a base set of KPIs to still be employed at the company. If you blatantly game it and then piss off a bunch of customers and do a bunch of things, you definitely might get fired. But the nature of the sales role is that it's really hard to actually, some stuff is very easily quantifiable. The money you bring in, the number of deals you close, the hours work. The relationship stuff is really hard to track. You might get fired, but you might work at a place for a couple of years, or even just for your probation, really drag it down. It's hard to measure the impact that can have. So if you build a commission structure that's easily gained, you might just find a bunch of people working at it behind the scenes and you don't really know. When I worked for a hypothetical WA company, one of the biggest companies that uses Goatsy as their logo, in fact, at the time, they had an end-of-month bonus scheme for their sales and their support staff, which was pass-fail on 2 KPIs and then like a point system. And the last week of every month, I had a mate actually write me a script which calculated how much time I had on the phones to hit each KPI and what the optimal amount of calls I needed to do just to pip that. And if you were over at the end of the day, you just take 4 hours off, like super bad.
Okay, thank you very much, Trent. We do actually have a couple of extra questions. If you can get through them very, very quickly, we're talking like less than a second. We got one question that says, notice your background and wondering how much GME you own.
Yeah, diamond hands right here. What else you got?
Oh, diamond hands.
Straight to the moon. We also have a question that says, hey, why can't pen testers do sales?
Well, they can.
I've
heard of one hypothetical company that has a commission model for their consultants.
I've heard about that too.
I don't know.
Weird.
Okay, so thank you very much, Trent. Let's do some clapping real quick. All right.
We'll edit that in post.
Yeah, we'll fix that in post. Now, thank you very much, Trent. We are moving to our next talk, How to Write Gooder by Darren Pauly. This is actually one of my favorite talks. Now, this one is pre-recorded, so give us about 30 seconds and we will be back. Thank you very much.
For a bit over 10 years, and I'm here to help you improve your communication. Up here is a QR code that links to my Google Drive. In there you'll find like a PDF that kind of goes along with this, captures most of the ideas, and a document that this is really a workshop, so you can get that document and help and fill out a few things in there that will sort of help you improve your writing over time. You can also hit me up on Twitter or email me and all that kind of stuff. We'll have the stuff at the end of the prezzo. What this prezzo isn't is a treatise on grammar and writing better sentences and all that kind of bullshit. That can be taken care of with Microsoft Word and turning on all the non-default spell check options. You can also use something like Grammarly, but it seems a bit gross. The kind of the way they store stuff, I don't know. But I did use Grammarly for ages. It basically just commercializes all this stuff, but it works really well anyway. They'll put squiggly lines under everything and know that it is right. So if you're arguing against Microsoft Word or Grammarly, you're probably wrong. You're almost definitely wrong. Yeah, anyway. So to capture this talk at the start so you can leave and not listen to me bullshit on for half an hour, the most important things is to know your reader. Okay, you need to know what they care about, what they know, what they don't know, and their priorities, and make all and answer, like fill in the knowledge gaps for the stuff that they don't know, and make their priorities, right? The thing that they care about most is now the thing that you care about most. And we used to say that about journalism. Okay, you're being paid to care about something. If you're a freelancer and you're being paid to cover the under 8 soccer, you're being paid about sorry, you're being paid to care about the under-8 soccer. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you give a shit about something or not. You're being paid, you care about it. That's what you do. So you then apply your readers' priorities. They become yours when you're writing. Okay, you need to write for the ultimate reader. What I mean by that is, in probably more of a business context, you need to think about the person who matters sort of the most. Okay, you sort of do that when you know you're defining your reader anyway. But if you're writing sort of a report to answer for a client who's going to send it on, like an InfoSec manager is going to send it up the chain to their CEO or something like that, or you're internal and you're doing the same deal, think about that CEO, right? Like, that's the ultimate reader. Okay, so if you write heaps of technical bullshit, then someone's going to have to translate that for the CEO. That should be you, okay? Because you know it best, and now you're going to be able to. You didn't need to do that translation, okay? So think about them, and kind of goes hand in hand. But the communication end state, like most of the time, this report that you're going to write will be sent in an email, and the emails will have words in them. Funny enough, so you should be the person who writes those words. You should write the email from, your boss or whoever to the CEO or whoever the ultimate reader is. Put a nice little bow on your communications. Do all of it. Do the whole thing. And then you could write like, hey boss, here's the report you asked for, blah. And then down below is where I had a crack at writing an email from, Louisa to Kate or whatever. And so you can write that little email in there because you're the person that knows the most important thing. Okay, you're wearing their priorities, right? The ultimate reader's priorities, what they care about in the business or whatever it is. We talk about that all the time. So there's your opportunity to really do a fucking fantastic job. And then if you're unsure about whether something makes sense, okay, you're trying to translate technical to simple. It's really hard to do that. If you think it's easy, you're probably doing a shit job most of the time. If you're unsure about whether something is good or not, go and ask a person you live with, the person next to you. Someone, the less they know about the subject, the better, I find anyway. And if they say, oh, I really don't understand that, and you have to go, well, it's because of A, B, and C. Is A, B, and C on the page? If it's not, then you've left stuff out. So the person who's going to read it probably won't understand. You need to recast your writing, okay? That person, your mum or your partner or your friend or your dog, whatever, is the best editor you can get aside an actual editor. I do this all the time with Lauren, my partner, and she absolutely tears the shreds out of the shit that I write. And she saved me from writing horrible poetry that I thought was fantastic and all this kind of crap. So, take the word for it. So why do you want to improve your writing? Because you don't want to be this guy, Gil, okay? Someone with a good product who's a shit salesman, okay? Good products with bad marketing equal low sales. You've put all this information, you've put all this time in toiling in the InfoSec mines. Don't fuck it up with crappy communication, okay? You don't have to spend as much time on the communication, but you need to put in the effort, okay? So the art of good communication does not come with fluency. It comes with practice, lots and lots of practice. And it's like getting out and driving. Every single time you're on the road, it's an opportunity to become a better driver than you were last time. Every single time you write, same deal, but an opportunity to become a better writer. So sell your ideas. Don't fuck it up. Sell your ideas. You become known as someone who's a signal, no noise, no bullshit. You're not waffling about stuff that you care about that no one else cares about, or they don't, because you're all about, knowing their priorities and the reader is king and all this kind of stuff. Good attention for yourself, good career stuff, all that, all very important. We hear about that all the time. The only kind of chart of its kind in here is this F chart or an E chart or whatever you see in this ink blot. It is the heat, the red, heat, and yellow is where people spend the most amount of time reading on digital communications. It's slightly different in print, but it's been like this for 20 years. It's going to be like this forever. People skim read. So if you're writing like expecting people to read like they do a novel, that's shit. Okay, people don't read like that. And it also means if you kind of fuck it up, people are going to stumble and sort of they'll lose focus. And they already do that in print. They definitely do it in digital. Okay, whether it's, I don't care if it's a web page, a blog, or a PDF, it's all the same. Reading off a screen. So that backs up, well, that F slide stuff backs up this kind of need for good structure. So rules for good writing. Stephen King said there's no way to become a better writer other than read a lot and to write a lot, and he's absolutely right. So writing is, you don't always have time for that. You might not sit down and you might not have time to start a blog, or you might not want to, but you probably do write. Well, you're not going to probably be listening to this talk if you don't write at all, but you do read, okay? So you've got no excuse for that. What I mean by reading is professional writing, okay? Trained writers, not citizen journalists, not blogs or anything like that, not shit posts on the internet. I mean fucking Fairfax, news.com, ABC, I don't care what your political bent is, proper trained journalists, okay? Probably doesn't include Daily Mail. Probably stick to, and even those glossy mags at the end of the checkouts, the bullshit kind of New Weekly and all that, they're all lies, but they're so good at presenting their lies in a way that they want to, right? And they're fantastic. The front covers are amazing. They're really, really, really good at what they do. So you can even read that bullshit, but otherwise read your main mastheads are really good. And have a look at the way, once you've read the story, or even as you're reading it, and then you know the story, you know what happened, go back and have a look and go, why did they choose to write that as a headline and write that as the lead, the opening sentence, that is the second, that is the third, right? And just have a little bit of a think about it. Don't spend all day on it, but just do it and make a habit of doing this every day, right? Just 1 or 2 articles a day, that's it. And you'll really start to train yourself. There isn't a newsroom that works well that isn't a bloodbath, basically. Okay, you need to be just tough. Okay, you need to realize that all your writing habits are probably bad. No, they are bad. All your writing habits are bad, and it's only a matter of acquiring the skills to be able to improve them. That's it. Okay, so if someone says, if your mum or your partner or whoever, I don't care, says that this sentence sucks, this type of writing sucks, this doesn't make any sense, whatever, then, or someone gives you that advice, take it on board. If you reject that advice, you're doing yourself a disservice. You won't improve. Okay, so you've got to be really bloody ruthless, and you've got to be able to you've got to hit that delete button. Mine is, I smash the shit out of it. This doesn't say it's worn almost down to a nub. All right, that's a really good way to knock your writing into shape. Less is more. So true in writing. A really great book that's easy to read and pretty old school is this. You can find it on the internet. So read it a couple of times. I do. It's all about presenting ideas, really, that work. Grammar matters. It really matters. There's no such thing as a grammar Nazi. There's just people who don't understand grammar and do. There's assholes on the internet who correct people about apostrophes. Fine, I'll accept that. But grammar really bloody matters. It does. Now, don't try to go, I gotta go read a grammar book on it. But fine, there's heaps of good grammar books, and if you're inclined that way, good on you. But learn it over time is my advice. Bit by bit by bit by bit, right? So it will, by doing that, if Word is sort of screaming at you with this wiggly line all the time, go and find out why, why don't you have a comma here? Or why do I keep fucking that up? That kind of thing. Go check that out, right? That's it. By doing that, you can help your reader, whether they understand grammar or not. If you're reading a well-written, a well-punctuated article, it's going to be a breeze. If you're reading something that's written shit, you're going to be going, is that idea separate to that? Huh? I don't understand. Like, you'll come away with a different impression or a different idea than the writer did. That's why this kind of stuff matters. I mentioned there's a couple of books. Here's a couple of books. Audience, structure, and message are the 3 main components of this talk, of this workshop. We'll go into them straight away. Audience is reader. It's the most important thing. Know your reader. Know who they are. Your most, your ultimate reader. Now, if you write for a daily newspaper who can be picked up by anyone walking down the street, you still have an archetypal reader in mind, okay? It's a 35-year-old professional woman, or it's a 20-year-old bricklayer, whatever, right? There is someone you're writing for. So you never just write for anyone and everyone. You're writing for someone. Know who they are at the expense of all the rest, okay? Now, once you know who they are, and we'll look at how you kind of do that, they become your king, okay, or queen. Their priorities are your priorities. You absolutely look out of their eyes when you're writing, Okay, so you don't write the shit that you care about on the page. You write the shit that they care about. You're presenting your information in the way that they care, in the order of priorities that they care about. Okay, not the bullshit that you find particularly interesting or something like that. It's what they care about. So how do you write for them? I just mentioned a few things. Knowledge. So in the 60s, there was a guy, I'm not going to remember his name. No. He was charged as a young dude to broadcast college football games, and no one gave a shit about college football games. He reinvented the way that it was broadcast. It was in TV. So he realized that the reason they don't care is because they don't know anything about the teams. Okay, so he started talking about the rivalries that go back, decades between these two universities or colleges or whatever they are. Took them into the crowds where the fans are and all that kind of stuff, and really immersed them in the stadium and the whole reason that you will go to one of these games. And in doing so, he made people care. So he filled in what you call knowledge gaps, okay? Gaps in knowledge. And that's what you need to do. You need to know what your readers' knowledge gaps are. Because if you don't, you're going to be writing shit on there and assuming that they understand what you're talking about, which is the death of effective writing. Remember when I said about like how if they read something and they go, well, that doesn't make sense, they kind of trip. Imagine you're running and you trip and then you trip and then you're out. Okay, you trip them too many times, they're gone. So find out the knowledge gaps, fill it in with context. Okay, give them the missing context. Don't blather on for ages. And that's what you're to do. So their priorities, I mentioned this before, their priorities are your priorities. If your ultimate reader is a CEO or whoever that person that matters is, order your shit and write to them, okay, in their priorities. Don't talk at them and put your view of the world forward, right? No one likes to hear that. That's not effective communication. Okay, you still will color it because you're the expert, right? You're writing something, they're reading your stuff because they need to know it. Okay, so it will be balanced out in the wash. Put their priorities first. It's hard, but do it as much as you possibly can. And tone, right? Okay, if you're writing for execs, they're probably pretty similar, but maybe some execs are different. Maybe Elon Musk is different. I don't know. Maybe he's a cruisy guy and he writes real casual in his emails. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But there's if you're writing, or you might be writing for a lot of common folk in an organization or the public or whatever, so you can kind of match their tone a little bit. It's pretty obvious. Now here's a little snapshot of this Excel sheet, but basically each of the things that I talk about, the audience communication and whatever the other one was, structure or something, are in here. Okay, so you want to map your reader, your specific reader, and write a little bit of stuff about them. You're just kind of making it up, right? It's all generic stuff. And at the other side, the yellow post workshop thing here, hopefully you'll be able to spit out a guide for writing for them. A few notes to yourself. Oh, I've got to write for Jerry again. I've got to write for Sam, whatever, right? You have something to kind of go on. Or you can just not. Maybe you're a universe brain. You can hold all this shit in your head. I can't. So a few questions normally I would ask, but this is a recording, so I can't. If the answer to the first two are, you need to pick one. You need to pick a reader. If you think that all these different people are going to read your report or your email or whatever, you pick one. Okay, you make it. It doesn't matter how diverse they are. You pick the average person and you go for that. And skew simple. So don't assume. If you assume technical knowledge, you're going to lose people. If you go too simple, you're not really going to lose anyone. Okay, no one's going to get annoyed because you're explaining what DDoS is. Okay, but if you say DDoS without any context, they're like, what the hell's that? You're going to be in trouble. And if they're not technical, but they still need detail, what I just said, skew simple. Okay, people that want technical detail but aren't technical people, okay? They can have the technical detail if they want. They just don't know what's good for them. Give them the simple stuff. Story structure. This is a way to guide your reader. It's like building a house. There's absolutely no good analogy for this. I've tried heaps. It's the way you compile. You start your story, and when I say story, I mean report. It's interchangeable. Okay, given my heritage, I call everything a story. So you start at a place that is it's a logical compilation of an argument. Okay, so you start in a place that makes sense, and then you kind of go, you guide your reader through this story. And in doing so, you save them time and you avoid confusion. If you're chopping and changing and all that, in journalism we call this burying the lead, it's just going to hinder, it's going to hurt your reader. They're going to be annoyed and maybe you'll lose them. Fortunately, there is a template for doing this, and it's been around for more than 150 years. This is the inverted pyramid of journalism. There's so many things for business writing. Good luck to you if you found the others. I'm not going to write them off. I just don't know them. I've heard names chucked around, whatever. This is really good. People understand it. It's for the average person, an executive, a common person in an organization, anyone on the internet. They're all just people, and this is a really fantastic way of writing for people. So it maps really well from journalism to corporate writing, whatever you like. So headline, this can be like your subject of your email, okay? Or the headline of your report or whatever you're doing, that kind of thing. So you start with the most, you're basically distilling your story as condensed as it possibly can and then adding detail as you go down, okay? Don't put heaps of detail like the tail at the top, which heaps of people do. Or stick it weirdly, like it should be an inverted pyramid. They started, there was the Minister for War back in the Civil War in America, created this, and it was a way to broadcast, it was a way to broadcast important logical information from the war, and it became a standard way of reporting stuff. So very, very good. It's in radio, TV, everywhere you consume news is built on this, and there's no deviation. If there's deviation from this, it's wrong. That's how effective it is. So I really don't need to go into this too much. I'll just breeze through it. The headline is your condensed information. It should be able to read a headline of an article and know what the story is about. Okay, not this like you'll never believe what happened, blah. Not that shit. I mean proper writing, proper journalism. Okay, when Don Bradman died, whenever he died, the Herald Sun ran a headline: Bradman dead. You could walk past that. Bradman's dead. There you go. You read the headline. Okay, that's the point of these things. Same with the subject of an email. Don't go like, here's some information. That's your opportunity to write something in there that matters. And same with any kind of wherever your headline is, that's the way you should sort of think about it. It's not always appropriate, but think like that anyway. The lead always is though. This is when you start writing about something. Answer who, what, when, why, how. Okay, and how do you work that shit out? You need, if you've got like 20 facts of a report, you pick the thing that matters most, or the two things, but not the 20 things, because that's too much to say straight away. Pick two, pick one, pick two, pick three, whatever. Keep it condensed, stick it in the lead. That's what matters. Okay. How do you work that out? Know your reader. Remember, know your reader, right? All comes down to that. Then the body is like the next couple of paragraphs, and you're still remembering to keep the pyramid, right? Don't start going, shit, I got my lead out, bleh, and put a whole bunch of shit on the page. Don't do that. Generally you're doing just a sentence or two, and you're hitting carriage return like every, write a sentence, write two sentences, and then make a paragraph. Okay. So not trying to cram your ideas into a little space. That makes shit confusing. So a couple of ideas and logical, nice, breaking it down as you go through. Okay. Extra detail down the bottom. Now you shouldn't bullshit and waffle at any point in this. Okay, there's not an excuse. Just because even if a report is long, maybe not a report, but an email. If an email is super long, that's enough to make people go, "Fuck no, I'm not doing that." They might read the first thing, go, "Wait, I've got to read what?" and just not. I know heaps of people who do that. I do that. So no waffle, no bullshit. Okay, there's no place in this at all. And that includes attachments too. Don't attach shit that people don't need to read. And if they're not gonna read it, don't attach it. Okay, so be realistic. So storage. So how do you work out what information is critical? You've got to do the whittling down process. It's really super hard. It's probably one of the hardest things of writing, I reckon. I spend probably most of the amount of time on the lead. Really, I think I spend a lot of time. I've never timed myself, but it would be a huge amount of time compared to the amount of time I spend writing any other part of the story on that opening lead. It's really difficult. So how do you work out what information is critical? It comes down to knowing your reader. Remember this, okay? What do they care about? Priority, knowledge, tone, all that stuff. What do they care about? That'll help you. That'll help you form your opening lead. And then the rest generally, so writers have different, some writers just write a lead, whatever, and then write the story and then go back and adjust it. For me and a whole heap of others, getting the lead mostly right, your opening sentence again, say lead, you might be writing a report. It's the same deal. It's just the opening sentence, is kind of like lining up a bowling shot, right? If it's a bit off, your thing's going to go a bit wobbly. So it kind of matters. Don't be afraid to spend a fair bit of time on that. Sentence structure, there's like a wall of text. Don't do this shit ever. You can't read it. No one does. Generally, this is like almost so general it's almost wrong, but new idea, new sentence. Okay, try not to cram too many ideas together. If you're thinking about maybe a car, it's like if you're talking about steering and the dynamics of steering, that's all kind of related. Okay, group of ideas, new paragraph. Okay, if you start talking about the suspension or the boot or something else, that's another group of ideas. Okay, so if they're kind of related, it's really tough. But otherwise, you can just sort of hit enter a lot. Okay, write 2 sentences, hit enter. Do that. At least you're going to break up the wall of text. I really won't spend any time on this, but you've got to identify the subject. This is in sentence structure itself. The word will fix you up on this, but you'll see something about subject and subject confusion and stuff like that. Google it, okay? Google subject. This is how you form beautiful sentences, by knowing your subject. If you stuff up your subject a little bit, it's not going to make a bad sentence necessarily, but it'll make a really lovely one if you get it right. Writing active is like a great goal of writing as well. Makes you seem like a really it's speedy reading. Really clear, speedy reading. It's lovely. And keeping it simple is just key. Okay, don't go technical. You might want to pause the recording or something like this. This is like a bunch of bullshit facts, and this is all to help you kind of identify a structure. Okay, so you've got to identify. Imagine you're a journalist at a newspaper, and you've got to here's the facts of an incident that's happened. You've got to pick the ones you're going to write the story for. Pretend you're a radio guy. Straight away you're on the radio. This comes across. You're going to broadcast it immediately. Okay, you're the person who's going to write the thing for the broadcaster. Okay, and then maybe you're a journalist who's going to write something for the Arvo News or the 6 o'clock news. There you go. 2 different times. One immediately with the incident. One a bit later on. What kind of 2 facts would you pick? Okay, and if you pause it, have a think about it. This is what I would do. The top one would be probably the one that matters the most, the Tullamarine Freeway. Okay, get off the freeway, it's jammed up. And the second one would be that the seafood stocks have gone up. And I'd write some sort of article like this, which is a made up bullshit one that I just edited. So although you've got all these kind of facts in there, the one that matters are the ones that your audience cares about. Okay, it's all a matter of sort of picking, and you've got, it doesn't matter if it's a news story like that or a whole bunch of stuff in a penetration testing report. It's the thing that really matters the most. That's your headline. That's the thing you'll land with. A couple of questions, of course, you can't ask me any, is what if you have lots of different bits of critical information in there? You often do, especially in pen testing. You get criticals fucking out the door, okay? So what do you pick with? You choose one, okay? Or pick the ultimate overarching thing. You go back and think about, what does your reader care about the most? Okay, what's the thing that matters to the business the most, or something like that? Okay, that's how you're going to get around this. And if you have contributors and executives and bullshit like that, people contributing this report, and they all think that this is the best thing. You've written this like tight headline, this or whatever subject. You've written this kind of email. You've done this end state communication. It's all written. It's simplistic. You've tormented over it, and you've gone, okay, these are the 2 things that matter. Or maybe I've told the bigger picture. Okay, this system is completely fucking exposed. Instead of going into all the technical detail, you lead with that. It's really bad. You got to fix it. Okay, and then all the people you're working with are like, no, you got to say all this stuff as well. You're the communications guy now. They're wrong and you're right, and that's how brutal this is. Okay, if you put in the effort into learning this stuff, you're right. There's no such thing as everyone has opinions here. Okay, once you really practice this, you become the person who is correct in this kind of stuff. So don't let other people pour complexity all over your simplicity. Message is the last part. So the key to it is keep it short. I like this kind of campaign. There's heaps, but the government drink driving ones have been around for so long that they are really succinct. A little bit over, you're a bloody idiot. Like, you don't that every single person knows what that means. Okay, so keep it short and keep it simple. It's not like a university, a high school exam essay where you're trying to fill in word count or something like that. The shorter it is, the better. Okay, keep it simple. Again, unless you're writing for your peers, then don't worry about any of the stuff I'm saying. If you're writing for your peers, do whatever the hell you want. But if you're writing for someone who doesn't have the same amount of expertise, and even we know how diverse our field is. Okay, people know all sorts of weird exploit shit, and people know different things about different areas. You can't assume. Okay, so probably 9 times out of 10 be translating technical to simple. Okay, it depends how simple, but you're going to be translating it. Okay, and again, overshoot the simplicity. You're never going to piss someone off by writing too simple. You're really not. You're going to lose a lot of people by not doing it though. Clear and concrete language. Corporate communications words and buzzwords and all that kind of stuff are just shit. Okay, so you've really got to use language that if I say something, like when you're the writer and you as the writer and the reader have to come out with the exact same ideas and impressions. Okay, when you write something, there should be 1,000 people read what you've written and everyone thinks the same thing. They see the same tint of green as you. Okay, that's good communication. That's clear, concrete language. Don't use cliches. They have no place in writing unless you're a master at it. Okay, they're really great for figures of speech and communication, all this other stuff. Not writing it at all, not ever. So no cliches, no vagaries. Don't these business terminologies, just bullshit. If it's not in a dictionary, a common dictionary, I don't mean Google, I mean like an old Macquarie dictionary, right? It doesn't exist. That's how you should sort of think about this. This is how brutal you should really be in trying to pin yourself down to concrete language. And vagaries, and I said don't use cliches. Limit acronyms. This is kind of cutting it off, but you can see what that means. Unless it's like the ACCC, there's acronyms and initialisms. Okay, 2 different things, whatever, but pretty similar. Everyone calls them acronyms. So ACCC, people know that agency is the ACCC. ACMA, ASIC. All right, these are pretty common, but maybe not DDoS. I mean, write it out in full. Okay. The only reason you would use an acronym for writing, unless you're writing for your absolute peers, is to avoid having to spell the thing out again. That's it. It's just to save that time, really. The more acronyms you put in there, if you're only going to write denial of service attack once, don't put DDoS or whatever. Just write it out, and that's it. Okay. Use DDoS if you're going to keep saying it all the time. Fine. But if something's, you don't need to use an acronym or initialism just because it exists, unless that. The agency is, unless it's known by that in the first instance. They're pretty rare though. So there you go. A really good thing, I started this talk with a TLDR. It's super hard to sort of be, if you're, normally most of us, including myself and anyone else who works in a technical field and knows a technical subject, and it doesn't matter if it's computers or boats, it's all the same. Or in my case, writing. So, I'm doing it now. I'm trying hard to fight against this thing called the curse of knowledge, right? The more you know about something, the worse you are at understanding how little other people know about what you're talking about, right? It affects everyone. It doesn't matter if you're aware of it. It still affects you. So I call them a speed reader. I would write this report for execs that was fucking huge, okay? And I wanted to distill it down. I'm going, they're not going to read this. So I do a couple of pages up front, and then I looked at the word count and I put it through. I'm like, how long would it take the average person to read it? Reduce that, so slow it down because it's still technical, even though I'm making it simple. And I put a timer on it. I said, read this report in 8 minutes. So if you've got 8 minutes, you can know everything about this report in this little section. And I made it even a different color, so they know that that's the end of it. Here it is. It's the end. Here's all the rest of the bullshit and a page referenced in the report if you want to find more stuff. I found it a really good way to do it. So you can write all your stuff and then at the end of it, do like a couple of bullet points. Now keep them small. You can't win, like cheat it by cramming heaps of shit in there, or not your teammates either. Any of that. You keep it really simple. Okay. So super simple little bullet points up there. Always really nice. Key takeaway, whatever. Avoid corporate slogans. I said sort of this kind of corporate business speak is bullshit, and it really is. It has a place, fine. I I don't really accept its place, but I know it does. And that's, then use it, but know that it doesn't have any meaning. Okay. It's without meaning. It's nothing. So Bunnings is really good. You walk into Bunnings, what are you going to get? Lowest prices. Okay. Sweet. It's the cheapest place. Don't go anywhere else, right? It's the cheapest. So that's really natural language. So use that kind of universal understanding is really good. Another good one is Southwest Airlines has, they have fucking forgot. It's something about, no, it's low airfares, no hidden fees. That's it. Low airfares, no hidden fees. You get on this Southwest airline, right? The food's shit. The person, the pilot scowls at you. Everything. The plane stinks. That's fine. Expectations met, man. Your ticket was the cheapest. No hidden fees. Done. Everyone has a universal understanding. The staff, it sets the direction of the whole company and everyone. It's perfect. Okay. You want to spin up a project? Is it going to help us make low hidden fees and low airfare tickets? Nah. Okay. Project cancelled. Right. It's so good. You have other bullshit that is just like, American Airlines is, what is it? Towards, it's something about greatness. And so what is, let's argument's sake say it's greatness. It's something like that. Everyone has a different idea about that. Like maybe I want good food. Maybe I want a plane that's really nice. Maybe I want great service. Maybe I want a low airfare. So there's so much room for disappointment there. Okay. So concreteness is beautiful. Like if you write concrete, your reader is coming away with the same impression as you. It's great. It's like battlefield plans. Okay. You can't write vague bullshit in battlefield plans or, you'll lose the war. No loose ends. So with messaging, just if you're probably in a business context, like filling out, like you're meeting a request, serving, delivering on something, make sure that you've done it all, even beyond it, right? This is just being smart, really. But think when you're writing, think about the wider kind of context a little bit. How does this impact other stuff, or whatever? Maybe you know a little bit more. You're answering a request, but you're the expert, right? You know the context of this, so weave it into your writing a little bit. Think broadly, same deal, okay? Like you might be just supplying a report, but maybe you the context of why this report matters. Like there's certain threat actors are targeting this kind of CV or that you're submitting or whatever, right? That's all cool stuff to think about. That's all about being complete as well. And that little ultimate reader thing I spoke about, putting a bow on your writing and writing the fucking email that's going to go along with your report, okay? So just be a legend at this. So just write everything that you can think of that goes along with it. Okay, you're going to be doing a really good job and helping someone to understand what it is you're conveying. Okay, so giving a shit again. What I said about journalists, right? You're being paid to care about something. So think about it like that. It's a really good way. What if your exec loves buzzwords? Okay, I just told you to be concrete. Don't use vague terms and corporate bullshit. What if your exec loves it? Or what if your teammate wants you to put this much shit in your little brief, and all of a sudden your brief is taken up a whole page? I said before that by doing this and by applying yourself, you're going to be the communications person. That's the answer, right? You're the communications guy. You set the rules. Be ruthless. Tell them no. Tell them why. If they don't understand, tough luck. Okay, you're right. They're wrong. That's how this goes. Okay, that's how you're going to be a good writer. You have to be the editor. Okay, there's no two editors in a situation like this. It doesn't work. And that's it. So you can hit me up on my Gmail address or my phone there, and I will help you out. I'm also on Twitter, Darren Pauly at Twitter. Other shit as well. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks.
Whoa!
Well, that was my favorite talk.
Wow, that genuinely was my favorite talk.
Oh man.
So does anyone have any questions about that talk? We have literally 2 minutes.
Do we?
Hit us up on the socials.
Oh yeah, we do it. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We're just doing an order from Macca's. Does anyone want anything? doing a Macca's run. Anyone need anything? All right, I'll check it out. This is my cat. This is Alice.
No one
She's
else
a very
wanted
good
chocolate
cat.
shake. So someone else had Codingo had a question previously regarding the type of gin that we're drinking. So tonight we are drinking Running with Thieves. Gin 003 is the bottle of gin that we're drinking. So just for any records you might be keeping, that is the type of gin we're drinking. And we're also drinking Tequila Blue, which is 100% day agave tequila blue.
Blue.
Okay, so if anyone had any qualms about the type of alcohol that was being consumed by the members of WAHCKon tonight, that hopefully will put those questions to rest. But in the absence of any other questions, we will probably pass over to our next speaker, who is honestly our favorite speaker.
My favorite presentation.
Presentation is genuinely a favorite presentation of the event, so we're very much looking forward to this one. And this is Evil Demon D with the presentation, Whoa, what's going on with my access.logs?
Oh, hey, didn't see you there.
No,
I didn't see you there.
Oh, shit. Before we start, I drove to the bottle-o, got a bottle of tequila specifically for this.
Yay, you're drinking the tequila. Good man.
There we go.
What tequila are you drinking?
This is a single state tequila Ocho Tequila Repository. For any barcode fans,
barcode
right there.
Nice.
Could you read that out?
Nice.
Let's have a look. It's 8986270013115.
Thanks, man. I know we've got a lot of barcode fans in the audience, so that's really appreciated.
Yeah.
All right, we will let you get started. Have a good one, pal, and present a lot.
I will. So after all that, my one is going to be absolute trash. I spent way too long doing that transition, all of 5 minutes. Anyway, who am I? This is me. I failed my OSCP 3 times and passed once. I'm a Discord emote on 3 servers for some reason. I once drove it backwards 1 kilometer to prove a point. And I'm the number 20 hacker on HackerOne in 2020 Q4. There were 24 ranked. It isn't a good thing. Anyway, let's start off with this. What's an access log? Some sort of like log file or something? Basically, you can find them on most servers. If you're running Apache or Nginx or similar, what will happen is you'll have some information in there. It will tell you, your IP address, the times that things happened, your pass and the user agent. Just really basic stuff, really useful. As you can see here, you can see where figurative crimes happened. Yeah, it's a thing. Anyway, I can't be bothered setting up Canary. It's literally the worst. Like, how am I ever going to check for SSRF? How am I ever going to, get that sweet bounty money? Maybe I want to host files as well. Maybe I want to put some, PHP stuff on there because I hate my life. And you know what? Screw Golang. We have Bash. That is my opinion. I'm sorry, Csto, ahead of time. I'll expect your messages in my DMs in about 5 minutes. How do we do this then? So there's this stuff on Bash. You can see here, we got some cool scripts. What will happen is it will strip down everything to the good stuff. So you got your IP address, you got your what's happening, the host, and the path that it went to. And all that's happening from that script is it's taking a tail input for all of the files within your file. So in this case, we're choosing Nginx access log. And then through some cutting, some sed, some cutting again, some more sed, and some tr, we can get an output that's slightly better. From there, we can just get that access token and just dump it into Discord and all that. It's pretty cool. So I discovered logs, basically. As you can see, I'm a pioneer. I'm trying to get my turtleneck for my next TED Talk. And who even needs a sock anyway? Socks are so last year. I'm now the log monkey. I get to do all this cool stuff now. And by that, I mean get to hate my life and stay up till 4 a.m. chasing dead leads. Anyway, what did we find? That might be your question. First off, I'm going to start with this. I found no APT threats at all. I'm just some dude that has a server, and it has random stuff going on it. Some scraper boys. Did you know Google Census and like Net System Research and some random other places just scraping your stuff on the internet? They're coming in and stealing your stuff and going, yeah, this is cool. Thanks for that. Cool thing as well, if you search it up, you can get an IP range just to block them. It's great. I found out my mates are nerds. I sent one of them a link to what the website was, and I ended up with 1,700 results of the word penis and the Navy SEALs copy pasta, which was pretty damn good. I was happy with that. I found this. So it turns out some like French people are trying to pop shells or some stuff. Basically, I've linked here if you actually want to look into it or some sort of stuff. And they've also decided, hey, I'm going to change my user agent to the Google bot because I assume maybe people aren't using IP addresses and they're using, you know, who your host is. Anyway, this is just a unauthenticated command execution on all devices. You can find another exploit. What this is mainly used for, though, is testing for the first payload. This one was kind of smart. It tested if current settings was already there and unauthenticated before it tried to launch the next exploit, which is here. As you can see, this is the actual exploit afterwards. Basically, you can use a setup CGI, and what will happen is you can get a file, put it there, and say, hey, cool, execute this. And it will execute it just like bam. This attribution is pretty cool because they just make their files just called mozzie.m. No idea why. It's packed, so you have to actually know how to unpack files or something like that. Some nerd stuff. And basically, once you've unpacked it, you get some malware or something like that. I don't know. What do I look like? Someone who actually did reverse engineering? Alongside that, this was cool. Some dude's just trying to actively exploit like Microsoft Exchange. If you did a host header check, you would have seen that this isn't even close. But they're using zgrab, which I was like, oh shit, people actually use zgrab, but this is one of the 5 people in the world who actually uses it. But yeah, this is just your standard big proxy login error. Sorry, proxy login vulnerability. You can find it everywhere. Pretty common CVE at this point, and it's pretty annoying. This one is think PHP exploits. There's thousands of them. I couldn't be bothered attributing this one because attribution is for nerds and it doesn't actually lead to anything. Fight me. Here's another cool one. This one was basically another router exploitation. It looks like there's a lot of just mass exploitation of routers, even though this isn't a router at all. I don't know why they're trying to exploit it like that. Maybe they're nerds again. And this one was kind of cool. Came from like some sort of like Vegas place, and just more D-Link, more routers. With this one though, it was pretty cool. What you could do is you can just call to the index 0 for the users, and it will give you the root username and password. After that, what we've got here as well is another one, which is another backdoor for DVR. That one's pretty cool. Again, from our boys over at Mozzie, they're pretty cool. Apparently, they're putting out malware, building a pretty cool botnet. And yeah, last one, PHP eval. For some reason, that's a real thing. Just allows you to execute arbitrary PHP code. Sucks for them though, because I don't run that. Don't think they're going to exploit that anytime soon. And yeah, this one was cool though. Basically, there's export tool. People were searching for that. I don't know what's going on there, but there's some dude saying that it might be like an up-and-coming vulnerability or something. I don't know. People are just trying to find cool stuff on the internet. This slide I accidentally left empty because I want to try and reach 20 slides. No particular reasons whatsoever. And thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I think that's about it. I'm running a little bit early on my time. I am Evil Damon. I look forward to talking to all of you in WAHCKon 2042. And I'm going back to play old school RuneScape. Now we just got to wait see if Peter and Clinton will come back on. And Nano, I won't forget him. I see.
We're here. We're here.
Hey, we are all here, buddy.
Yeah.
You nearly forgot Nano, which is unforgivable.
Genuinely
Yeah.
almost forgotten.
All right. So
Let's
let's just general question here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever played Euro Truck Sim?
I have. I took a truck and I rode it along and crashed it a couple of times, but we got there in the end. I got to Europe.
Cool. Who's the best hackers in hackers?
Oh, everyone knows that it's Dave Murphy.
Oh, I feel like that's incorrect. Wasn't he the one who got busted?
Some sort of crime or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like getting arrested doesn't make you the best hacker in hackers.
Look, he lost the don't get arrested challenge, but you know what? He won my heart.
Nano wants to know why he's still playing RuneScape.
Why are you not?
Oh, he just wants to know why you're not playing RuneScape. Oh, shit. Glenn, is our next dude queued up? Have you queued up our next guy?
please hold.
Okay, we're queuing up the next guy.
Oh, I think I know who the next guy is.
Who's the next guy?
Just give us,
Hey,
give us a shout
hey, guy, what was your favorite presentation today?
Which guy?
You.
Oh shit, am I guy?
It's Q&A, man. I'm asking a Q.
Oh shit. Darren's was pretty damn cool. Like talking about how to write stuff gooder. I'm pretty bad at writing good stuff, so learning how to write.
I really like that USB Type-C talk. I thought that was really good. I don't know who the presenters were, but they seemed on the ball.
Yeah, they remind me of those people who did that Untitled podcast.
Oh, you think it might have
Especially in episode
done
2. If you can find episode 2 and listen to it, well worth a listen to.
Yeah. Do we want to thank our
just have a
sponsors?
look at the email track for this particular presentation. We currently have no questions delivered by email. So if anyone has any questions to ask Evil Demon D, please deliver them by email in the next 6 minutes, please, and we will do our best to get them delivered.
Oh, hey. Actually, let's do the clapping. Clapping. All right, we got Seasto here. Hey, Seasto, what's up?
Hey, I'm just hanging out.
Hey, how's that going?
Yeah, it's not too bad. How are you guys going?
Yeah, doing all right.
What have you been up to tonight?
Not a lot, just like hanging out, playing Nintendo, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, have you played Desert Bus Simulator?
I have played Desert Bus. Wait, Desert Bus Simulator? I played Desert Bus. Is there a simulator now?
Yeah, the simulator. It's just the same thing, except for you're simulating playing the game.
So,
I'll play that.
hold on. So, do you have any questions for Evil Demon D regarding his talk?
Oh, that's a good question.
That was a great question. Thanks, Peter.
Nope, it was pretty clear. Use Bash instead of Go. Don't use Canary.
I concur with both of those points. I feel like they were the strongest points in the entire presentation, especially the part about not using Canary. I feel like that is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, the developer's just not very good at computers.
The developer is substantially bad at computers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you drinking, Cameron?
I'm drinking a nice pear cider.
Ooh.
Could you read the barcode on that for us?
Yeah,
I'm not going to.
What are the numbers, buddy? Can you please?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to read the numbers. But you
Oh, okay. I see what he's doing. He's making the numbers known to the fans, but he's not reading them out.
No!
That's a cheeky little trick.
That is a cheeky little trick. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Could you just hold that up again?
Can you do that again?
No, right. Yeah, sorry. You got to go to make it big.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, what a cheeky mister.
Oh,
There you go.
If you've got a screen
You should be able to scan that.
There was a 9 at the start. That's pretty good. All right, so if you're real Barcodes fans, I know you would have screen capped that bad boy. Add that to your collection.
Mate.
See, I'm not a fan of that
Barcodes.
I'm not a fan of that. It starts with a 9 series. Not my thing.
Oh, really? Not a fan of the 9s?
I get you, man. I get you. I'm more of an 8 series guy myself, but I'm old school, right? I'm old school. We look at the old school barcodes, the 8 series barcodes. Oh yeah.
You're gonna have high quality
Retro,
vintage barcodes like this 8 one.
Yeah, oh, that's pretty cool. So I just wanted to acknowledge our sponsors for this event. Who are our sponsors?
Who's sponsoring this shit?
HTTP Live are our sponsors. And
Hey,
the stream,
HTTP Live.
stream is currently down.
HTTP
actually.
Live.
Oh, is it really?
Which is currently
Well, that's a
down,
shame.
so,
Oh, well.
I mean, their sponsorship is obviously expired at this point, so...
Look, that's for the best. I'll fix that up. But in any case, excellent. So, do you want to make a start there, Mr. C. Stowe?
Yeah, I can. If you're ready for me.
We are ready for you. All right. Thank you, evil demon dude.
You know what?
We're gonna.
Sorry, Peter. I do have to interrupt you, and I have to mention that this is genuinely my favorite talk of the entire conference. This is the one that I've been looking forward to the most. So,
Oh, wow.
I'm pleased to announce that CISO is presenting now, and let's take it away, CISO.
C. Woo!
All right, let's see if I can make this do the thing. Yes, so my talk is called CISO Doesn't Can Computer, and You Can Too. I am Cam, or CISO with 2 underscores if you're looking for me on Twitter. I'd also like to make a shout out to WACTF, which is the best Australian CTF. I may or may not have a part in that CTF, maybe in the future, depending on if I get invited back. So this is mostly a presentation about me fumbling around with Hashcat and similar sorts of things. It has nothing to do with my day job, but I am sort of known for doing crypto-y stuff. So in a few of the online chats that I was part of, somebody mentioned something about this, this new idea called cryptocurrency. And what had happened is that they'd forgotten a password to what boils down to being a brain wallet. And it has a reasonable amount of money in it. And they wanted to know if there was a way that they could get at that money, because obviously if there's money that you can see but not have, it's very desirable to get it. They had some idea of some of the words in the passphrase that was to unlock this wallet. They didn't know what the passphrase was, obviously. And it turns out this wasn't actually a brain wallet. It includes various other things that meant that it was slightly different. So naturally, I thought of this as a hash cracking CTF, which is something that I quite like, because I feel like I can computer a little bit. And listening to all these things and reading all these things, I thought, you know what, I actually have a way that I could probably approach this and make it work. So I hear you asking across the internet, what even is a brain wallet? So a brain wallet is basically just the SHA-256 operation on a secret value. I put pass there, but it's a secret value. So there is some prior art done in this space by with the project Brainflayer. Brainflayer has a slightly different goal in that it searches for lots of reasonably simple secrets across the entire Bitcoin space. All of the private keys that it possibly can find, determines whether or not there's any money in them, and then will allow you to, once you got the private key, you can do whatever you want with it. This is not exactly what we want, because we know that we have a particular wallet that we want to get into. We have a particular password or particular secret that we want to get at. So it's a different sort of wide net approach versus a very specific approach. One of the things that we discussed was that how this brain wallet was actually generated, and the person gave me a link to the site that they were using for this. And I had a quick look at the source, and it's a good idea whenever you're dealing with a hashing algorithm of any kind or any sort of crypto algorithms, is if you can have a look at the source, it usually gives you some good hints about what you've got to do. So obviously you've got to use the source, and I do have to apologize in advance. There is going to be some JavaScript on the screen. So if you are fortunate enough to not be particularly familiar with JavaScript. I'll give a brief summary of sort of what this is doing. Is that it takes the URL, and the URL looks like that value on the left there, where you've got the hash mark and then a bunch of A's. Well, it's not actually a bunch of A's. It's a base 64 string that's quite long, a lot longer than those A's. An exclamation mark, and then a bunch of numbers, which are not actually numbers. They're numbers and letters, sort of hex numbers. So what it's doing is that the A value is essentially a salt. So that means that Brainflyer won't be able to find it unless you provide it with this particular salt. And the idea was that you save this URL in your browser history or like in your bookmarks or something like that, and then you can access it. So if you lose the salt for your URL, it's game over. You're probably never going to find your Bitcoin again. Fortunately, we had the URL, which is very good. The other thing that you may notice is that the actual private key is derived in the sort of towards the middle of those lines there, where you do a SHA-256 operation on the salt, and then, you do a SHA-256 operation on the user password, and then you append the output of that to the salt, and then you do a SHA-256 operation on that, and that's your private key. So some of you keen-eyed viewers will also note that the first 10 characters of the actual private key are provided to you in the URL, because this is how the browser checks to make sure that the password that the user is giving them is valid. It does all this client-side because security, I guess. Yeah, so this means that we know the first 10 bytes of the private key, right? Unfortunately, whenever we're talking about sort of hashing and crypto and that sort of stuff, there has to be some maths. Sorry. There's not a lot, though, and it's not actually that complicated. I'm not very good at maths, personally. So SHA-256 creates a 32-byte output. So you can give it any sort of length input, and it will always produce a 32-byte output, 256 bits. That's 64 hex characters. We don't actually know 10 bytes of that 32. We know 5 because the JavaScript takes the first 10 hex characters, and you can represent all 256 states of a byte in 2 hex characters. So we know 5 bytes of the private key, which is not a insignificant number of bytes to know of a private key. However, 32 minus 5 is still 27, and trying to brute force 27 bytes is not feasible. Even offline, that's going to take like a long time. But we do actually have a partial hash to crack. So if we're fortunate enough to be able to use a pre-built cracking program, we can feed it this hash and hope that it gives us the correct password. Depending on how good the hints are or the words that we get in the word list, we may generate values that have the same prefix, so the first 5 bytes, but a different trailing hash. And those are sort of called collisions in this sort of instance. The chance of generating a collision on a single byte prefix is 1 in 256, which is pretty likely. Especially if you've got like thousands of inputs, it's pretty likely that you're going to have a number of inputs that hash to the same 1 byte prefix. But every byte that you add sort of goes up exponentially. So 5 byte prefix is not impossible, but it's pretty good, which is probably why the browser does it to make sure, because it's kind of unlikely that you'll remember a password that's sort of like it, but not quite, and it gives you this pop-up that's like, no, the password was wrong, and it's all good. So speaking on the quality of inputs, in this particular instance, we know, or the person knows, and let's remember that they don't remember the password, so what they know is probably not entirely correct. But they know that that the password is between 3 and 6 words long, most likely. They know that it is formed from one of 140 potential words that they gave me. And these words included variants of the same word. So for example, the word Satoshi was in there, and the word Satoshi was in there with an at instead of an A, and it had a capital S. There was also a bunch of exclamation marks and a bunch of dates in there, so like a Jan and a Feb and so on. Now, they know that the password might end with an exclamation mark, and it might be 1 exclamation mark, or it might be 2, or it might be 3, or it might be 4. They know that it might end with a 3-character month. It wasn't all of the months, fortunately. It was only 4 of them, but it's still more than none. The exclamation mark might be before the month, and it also might be after the month, but it was definitely at the end. So there's no point in trying passwords that have an exclamation mark at the start. There are some character swaps in there. So like you can see in the Satoshi, the A may be swapped with an at symbol. They didn't actually remember which characters were swapped, and they weren't sure if all of the words had characters swapped or if it was just like some of the words and some of them didn't. Also, the first letter of each word may be capitalized. But if that was going to be the case, then it would be the whole word, the whole phrase would have capital letters at the start of the word. So just from sort of having this discussion and talking to the person, I managed to reduce the 140 words that I was given in a word list down to about 30 to be mutated. So instead of having Satoshi 6 times in the word list, I only had it once, which meant that I could mutate it in place, and it reduces the search space a little bit, because instead of searching for a passphrase that ends up having Satoshi 3 times, it's only in there once, and we can modify it in place. We reduce the search space as well by doing things like only putting months at the end and the exclamation mark at the end as well. And all of these sort of little, I guess, rules is the word that I'd use, really start to sound like something that WAHCKon can do, because WAHCKon has a rules engine where you can give it a word list and a bunch of rules, and it will, modify the thing in place to change the password as you need it. So I was really, really hoping that WAHCKon would be my savior, and I could just like flick the hash into WAHCKon, give it this word list, and bingo bango, become a quadrillionaire, or however much money is in the wallet. Now, there ended up being 2 problems. The first problem is that the WAHCKon mode 20710 is not quite the same, which means that if I give it the passwords that I need it to, the passwords, it'll generate a hash, and it's not going to give me the same hash, which kind of sucks. And this is 20710 was the very closest mode that exists to what we needed. There is also another problem. The other problem is that WAHCKon doesn't do partial hashes, or it doesn't do truncated hashes, which is the actual term, I believe. The closest it has is half MD5, and half MD5 again is not exactly what we want. So naturally, I know Evil D said that this is the wrong approach, but it's what I do most of the time. Is that I did it in Go. So Go is good. It's pretty fast, but it doesn't use the GPU unless you use some frankly disgusting OpenCL bindings that I would never go near. But it's good enough. I didn't keep the output of all of the benchmarking that I did with it, but the speeds ended up being roughly 2 or 3 million per second on a CPU, which is it's pretty quick, especially when I looked. Especially when you look at the sort of search space that we were going through. 2 or 3 million per second means that we could run for a couple of hours and probably get through the space that we wanted. But this sort of led me to wonder what the best approach was for generating the passwords to go into my Go program. So like, how the heck do I generate all of these permutations and toggles and so on and so on? And there was sort of 2 ways that you can do this. The way that came most natural to me, obviously, is to do it in Go. If you're going to be doing that, then I highly recommend the GoNum combin library. It does all of the permutations and all that sort of stuff very, very neatly and nicely. Doing it in Go also has the advantage of being able to permute toggles. So like I said, they weren't sure if all of the A's were ats or just some of them were. Hashcat can't do that. Hashcat rules can't do that. And if they can, I'd really like to be corrected, because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make it do that. The other advantage is that we can write directly into a gzip, which means that if we're creating massive word lists, because if 3 to 6 words wasn't correct and it may be 8, then you end up with like gigabytes and gigabytes of text files on disk. And with Go, you can just write directly into a compressed stream, which other programs can probably read good. As a side note, Hashcat can read gzipped word lists. So if you're still storing your word lists in raw text, stop that. So the other approach that you could take is to use Prince processor and Hashcat rules. And that didn't really work for me, because there is a max limit on length that Prince processor will output the password for. And some of the words were really, really long. Like there was one of the words had like 10 characters in it or something like that, which meant that if you got like 4 in a row, it's 40, and it doesn't work good. It ended up being faster than my Go program, even when you're like piping Prince through to Hashcat and then doing rules on it. It ended up being faster than my Go program, but it outputs uncompressed. So like if you end up like doing 5 n-grams or whatever it is, you end up with like a terabyte of uncompressed text on disk, which kind of sucks. You could pipe it into gzip, obviously, but too many pipes is bad. Hashcat rules also let me down more than once, in that there's like bugs in how they're implemented. So I would highly recommend, if you're doing something like this, to like visually verify that the rules are doing what you think they're doing and that there's no edge cases. So an example was that I was using Hashcat rules to toggle the case between all of the words, and in some cases it was toggling some of the words' first letters, and some of them weren't toggling. I couldn't work out why. Maybe I'll look into that later, or maybe I won't. So I was doing good with my Go program, but as we started exhausting options, I started thinking about, maybe Hashcat might actually be a better option. So I started thinking about how we could do this, and we don't actually need to create a new module from scratch, because 20710 is actually really close to what we want. And there's a few blog posts and links around, but the very best one that I found was Synopsys post on how they had some Zen4o corpus cracking, whatever it is that they were doing. I think it's actually, they created 20710 in this blog post. This is the best post that you can read on it. You can use it almost like a step-by-step guide. The GitHub sort of Hashcat documentation is also very, very good, except it's really long and complicated. And if you read that, you will get very annoyed and confused. But there is a lot of details in there that may be important if you start doing more things around Hashcat modules. And I know somebody in chat was asking about those, so I would definitely recommend reading those if you've got like a few weeks to pull your hair out over. So what I did was I wrote a custom kernel. So what you're looking at here is the original. It is SHA-256. All of those, I'm not going to explain it, it's on the screen. And this is what the original looks like. And what I did was that I changed it slightly so that it does this. Now, the difference is very minimal in that I've moved one line above another. And that's the extent of the change that I needed to do to make this work with Hashcat. Great, yeah, victory. But there was 2 problems. So the other problem was that Hashcat doesn't actually do partial hashes or truncated hashes. And that is a problem that was not easy to solve. The way that Hashcat actually verifies a hash is correct is it doesn't check the whole hash. It only checks 4 4-byte sections of the hash in random parts. It decides which 4 bytes to check by using the search structure, and then it sends it through to the function called compare s scalar. So my fix was to make this yeah, so compare s scalar basically results in hash equals hash password. So what I did was I changed that slightly, and instead of using the constants that they specified, DGST underscore R0 through 3, I decided I only wanted to check the very first 4 bytes and the first byte of the next 4 bytes of the input hash, and I want to verify that against the same part, the same portion of the candidate hash. And these two changes meant that I could use Hashcat on this completely new hash type. I only made a very, very small modification to the CL files after reading them and being annoyed, and I was able to use Hashcat. Now, the results that I got from Hashcat were a little bit underwhelming. So I was able to get 2 million hashes per second when I was providing Hashcat with input from standard in. And that's sort of expected because the bottleneck isn't necessarily the GPU doing work in this case. It was getting Hashcat the words fast enough to be able to make the GPU do work. So I changed things around a little bit, and I provided some input from standard in, and I altered it to use some rules so that it would take some of the input. So for example, appending the values at the end is a good way of using Hashcat optimally, because it will take one word from standard in and then do the rules sort of in its own kernel in a really, really fast way. And doing that, I was able to achieve 30 mega hashes per second, which is a 10 times speed up, which is great. That's the sort of speed up I was kind of hoping for. Through some testing, it turns out that the speed limiting factor on this was that, again, I wasn't able to get data through standard in fast enough. So the natural solution that I had was to run multiple Hashcats, connect to each standard in, give each a different word from the same sort of worker queue, and I ended up getting up to 60 mega hashes per second, which was better than 30 mega hashes per second, but it was very over-engineered. I would not recommend doing that at all. The other thing that I would recommend is to not be stubborn. So sort of earlier on in this endeavor, somebody said to me, combinator is what you want. I don't remember who said that, but when I was asking around about how to do these things, turns out combinator is more or less what I wanted. So the combinator attack is when you take each word of one dictionary and you append each word of another dictionary to that word, and you go through that way. So you give Hashcat 2 dictionaries. Let's say one has a bunch of letters from A through Z, and one has a bunch of numbers from 0 through 9. And the candidates are generated like A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and so on and so on. And when you're dealing with passwords that are like lots of words sort of appended to each other, it's, combinator is actually what I wanted. Pretty frustrating to know that I was wrong, but there you go. So this turned into an optimization problem where I had to generate word lists for the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And one of the limitations of combinator is that you can't actually use Hashcat rules with them. You can use one rule on like the left side or the right side, or left side and right side, but that's probably not what you want to do. Hashcat combines them in memory, in kernel memory, as far as I'm aware. I think it does use a little bit of CPU for that, actually. But it goes like really, really fast. I was able to get up to 800 mega hashes per second on a 1080 Ti with an average at 400 mega hashes per second. The speed difference there is more or less the size of word list that you're giving it and how easy it can combine them in memory and stuff. So that was very, very fast. The next sort of iteration of this is because I sort of felt like I'd reached the end of my optimization side of things, is that I just wanted to use a faster GPU. And I don't know if you tried to buy a GPU recently, but it's very difficult. So the natural solution is to use someone else's GPU or someone else's computer. I would recommend paying for it. Just morally, that's probably better. There is a service called vast.ai, and this provides anyone on the internet the ability to rent GPUs that are typically used for artificial intelligence training. So they tend to have rigs on here that have like a lot of resources on them. They're pretty cheap as well. Like if all things considered, you can rent them for up to a month if you want to pay that long. The screenshot I have here are just like some of the faster ones that I found that were on there. So like you could have a GPU with 6 3090s, which ends up being 264 teraflops. And you can rent that for $4.50 an hour. So instead of cranking through at 800 megahashes per second, you could have like multiple gigahashes per second, which is pretty good. The spot price is not shown in this screenshot. It's often like a smidge above the Bitcoin mining rate. So if the mining rate is quite high, if people are making a lot of money from mining Bitcoin, then the price on these GPUs tend to be a little bit higher. But at the end of the day, if you're only going to be using it for an hour or two, whatever. So the question I know that you're all asking is, did it work? And the answer is, no, it didn't. But I did learn quite a lot in doing this, and it is obviously still an ongoing endeavor. Some interesting statistics that I thought I'd add here is that I've spent $150 on vast.ai. The highest speed I achieved with a single machine was 5 gigahashes per second, which is 5 billion trials per second, like trialing the hash 5 billion times per second, which is pretty quick. Obviously, it's still uncracked because I'm not wearing like a gold crown and grills and stuff. I have generated over 1,000 collisions now. So if you want to do the maths on that, it's well over 1,000 now. So I've searched 1,000 times 256 to the 5, which is in real words 1,306,860,900,000,000 different potential candidates, and that's just the collisions that I've counted. And that doesn't include any rework that I've done. So if some word lists contain the same word, I'll still be searching it again, and so on. And that is the end of my talk. I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has them. I wasn't really looking at chat the entire time because it was kind of distracting. There was some questions about how to optimize the Hashcat kernel earlier on. And the sort of generic answer I'll give to that is that the Hashcat kernels are pretty well optimized, and you would be better off trying to work out how to get words in there faster, or do what I did and try and get a better GPU, I guess. I can see a question from Dwayne in the chat. Do you know how much dollars is in the wallet? And do I get a % cut if I crack it? And the answer is yes, I know how much dollars is in the wallet. And do I get a % cut if I crack it? Yes, but I'm not going to disclose any more on that.
I will.
Okay, this guy's going to disclose. What have we got here?
So there is $742 dues in that wallet. And the percentage that CISO is entitled to if he cracks it is 0.74%.
That's actually a pretty good deal.
Which is a pretty decent deal.
Yeah.
Cost for effort.
So bro, I've got a question for you, my man. Have you heard of adrenochrome?
Have I heard of a what?
Adrenochrome.
No.
No, okay. So apparently rich people like harvest the blood of infants to make this stuff called adrenochrome, which keeps them young forever. Do you think that's true?
Try and crack this password.
Yeah, have you considered using adrenochrome to enhance your
right. Sort of to enrich the word lists that's going in adrenochrome. No, I hadn't considered that. The person did visit a hypnotist to see if they had any additional words that they could add to the word list, though. So there is some out of left field sort of techniques going on for sure.
Cool.
Oh, okay, we're at time.
Wait, I've got one more question. Was 9/11 an inside job?
We need to move
Stop
on to
trying
the
to
next
silence me.
presentation.
I have
will
questions. Stop
silence
trying to
you
stop.
as long as you live.
I
We
have
are
serious
over time,
questions
my
here.
friend. We do
Was
not have
9/11
time
an
for your
inside job, and
nonsense.
why will you not answer this
We
question?
need to stop this. No, we need to cut this questionnaire short.
All right.
The next presentation coming up is actually my favorite presentation.
It was actually my favorite presentation as well.
My favorite one.
All right. Well, thank you for that, C-Bro. Thank you, C-Bro.
And look, we're going to just go to a brief break while we transition into this next presentation, which is genuinely our favorite one.
That's actually true. It is my favorite.
To my top 10 arbitrary things about Ethereum. Before we begin, I'm going to ask you all to prepare a burner email address, which I can use to contact you. You'll need to give me this email address at the end of the prezo. There's this free email service called Language Warning 321 WAHCKon.club. I can't guarantee any content on that website is inoffensive, but it's an easy way to create a burner email quickly. Starting at number 0, Ethereum is a cryptocurrency. It uses a blockchain data structure, which can effectively be thought of as a distributed, decentralized ledger. Ethereum primarily uses a proof-of-work system to support the integrity of its blockchain. Proof-of-work involves spending computational and electrical power in order to brute force discover the value which corresponds to a given hash, and this activity is commonly referred to as mining. The miner that is able to provide the hash's corresponding input first receives a reward and is allowed to add another block to the blockchain, containing a number of pending transactions. Where there's any conflicting versions of the Ethereum blockchain, nodes will opt to use the chain where the proof of work was found earliest, i.e. the chain with more valid blocks. This makes it difficult, but not impossible, to perform fraudulent activities, such as double spending Ether, as a malicious miner would need to create and begin propagating a crafted ledger branch where they hadn't spent their Ether, and do it faster than the progression of the untampered main blockchain. There is a situation where this can happen called a 51% attack, as that's the ratio of mining power ownership you need in order to achieve such an attack. The currency of Ethereum is called Ether, and it uses public crypto to make transactions. A private key is kept by individuals who use it to sign authorized transactions, and the public key is stored on the chain, with amendments made when Ether is added or deducted to the address as it's referred to. Ethereum is also not a cryptocurrency, or perhaps it is not just a cryptocurrency. Code written in a language called Solidity can be compiled and deployed to the Ethereum chain. Each code segment you deploy receives its own 20-byte address, but when Ether is sent to its address, the code is executed. This is why Ethereum is kind of a big deal. In the early days of Ethereum, the idea of executing code on a decentralized platform replacing traditionally legally binding agreements took off. The term smart contract was coined to refer to code running on decentralized platforms as Ethereum in a way that is both transparent and trusted. Then someone came up with the idea of replacing a whole organization's processes with smart contracts. The concept of a decentralized, autonomous organization was formed. Here's my top 10 DAO list. So there's prediction markets such as Gnosis and Augur, which reward people for making accurate predictions of events. Alright, I'll be real, they're decentralized gambling platforms. But we also have decentralized crypto trading platforms such as Uniswap, SushiSwap, and ZeroX. Many people distrust centralized crypto trading companies because of their lack of transparency and susceptibility to possible insider manipulation, thefts, etc. Especially since Mt. Gox went up in flames in early 2014. MakerDAO is one I find particularly interesting. It's a platform that allows you to put up Ether and other Ethereum-based assets as collateral to receive a loan of their DAI stablecoin. DAI has a value that closely keeps it the same value of 1 USD per DAI. If the value of the collateral drops too low, your collateral position is liquidated by the DAO and is auctioned off to other DAO participants at a value lower than the collateral's worth, maintaining the value of the DAI and keeping it stable. Traditional financial institutes love Ethereum. You can't stop them messing around with it, trying to figure out ways of it giving them a competitive advantage over their rivals. A few cases are in 2018, when 17 tons of almonds were shipped and tracked from Australia to Germany using an Ethereum-based solution. This was a collab between Olam Orchids Australia, a bunch of shipping companies and ports, and the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. Also in 2018, the World Bank and CommBank jointly launched the world's first Ethereum-based bond settlement platform using an Ethereum private chain rather than the public mainnet. And also in late 2020, the Australian Reserve Bank, CommBank, NAB, Perpetual, and Consensus, which is the leading Ethereum software dev company, announced they were working together on a proof of concept for an Australian central bank digital currency. Not even a year after the Ethereum mainnet had launched, it had its first massive hack. It wasn't an issue to do with Ethereum itself, but rather a DAO which, out of sheer hubris, its creators had opted to call the DAO, as though there were to be no others. The unknown attacker customized and deployed a version of the DAO developer's own smart contract code which allowed the attacker to perform what's called a re-entrancy attack, and over the period of a few days they drained 3.6 million Ether from their smart contracts. The vol was specifically a logic flaw in a smart contract called SplitDAO. The attacker called the function to propose a split, then the function to execute the split. After this, the DAO smart contract would run a function which would withdraw funds to the attacker. But before the function completed and deducted the balance from the user's account, the withdraw function would send a message to the recipient of the funds. So the attacker modified the code so that when it received this message, it would send another call to SplitDAO and repeat the steps again and again until all Ether had been removed from the DAO smart contract. In order to fix the issue in the end, the Ethereum Foundation, who had nothing to do with the DAO, decided the best way to fix the mess was to do a hard fork, effectively hard-coding changes into Ethereum software that undid the attacker's transactions. This is a point where, like the Ethereum blockchain just had, the Ethereum community also split in two. Those diehards who held code as law as the highest principle accepted the attack and continued to follow the original chain, now referred to as Ethereum Classic. But most everyone else accepted the fork and kept working on the diverged Ethereum chain where the hack had been undone. These images are from the GitHub repo from the 1.4.10 release, which they aptly titled Return of the ETH. You can see the hard-coded changes they made to their software to put stolen Ethereum back to the people or contracts it was stolen from, causing incompatibility with clients that were not updated. Two other big hacks occurred in 2017, and both of them affected parity multi-signature wallets. Multi-signature wallets are supposed to be extra secure, needing signatures from multiple private keys or parties in order to withdraw funds. However, a flaw in Parity's smart contract code allowed an attacker to call a function called initWallet, a function that is supposed to be called once when the multi-sig wallet is created, but there were no checks preventing it from being called on existing wallets. initWallet is able to change the owner of the multi-sig wallet's contract, and hence give arbitrary ownership. Using this flaw, an attacker stole over 150,000 Ether from a few Parity wallets, which is worth over 400 million $dues today. Only a few months later in November, all Parity multisig wallets were entirely disabled when an entity known only by their GitHub username, DevOps199, set two simple transactions to run functions on a critical library that all Parity multisig wallets depended on for continued functionality. The first transaction DevOps199 sent was, like the prior hack, to run the initWallet function, which allowed them to take control of the Parity multisig wallet's library contract. The second transaction they sent was the self-destruct function, a function which causes a smart contract to cease functioning completely. But the attacker did the good thing and went to raise an issue on their GitHub page explaining they'd done it by accident. So good on them for coming clean and reporting the issue. But it wasn't much solace to the owners of the 587 wallets that to this day are locked with over 500,000 Ether in them, which today is worth about 1.5 billion Aussie dollars. Here's some fantastic historical screenshots of DevOps199 heroically admitting what they'd done. I'm not sure how long this has been happening for, but there are bots that monitor uncommitted pending transactions on the Ethereum main chain, attempting to identify profitable transactions that they are able to perform. Where one is identified, the bot crafts a transaction and attempts to front-run the legit user's transaction, causing the profitable transaction to be executed for the bot owner rather than the user who sent the transaction first. This makes it much harder if a vulnerability is found on the Ethereum main chain that allows theft of Ether. This is because white hat hackers would need to find ways to obfuscate their transactions to secure the Ether using various smart contracts calling each other in complex ways, to the point where bots aren't able to identify profitable transaction opportunity. So, as I mentioned earlier, Ethereum primarily uses proof of work to support chain integrity, but also partially uses proof of stake, and eventually it will transition to only using proof of stake. Proof of stake is a system that involves users locking up an amount of Ether and performing attestations on blocks where the validator's stake of Ether is lost if they attempt any fraudulent behavior, such as double spends. This is good because proof of work is very expensive and uses a lot of power, which is not great for climate change. A way of splitting the blockchain called sharding is due to launch possibly this year. Sharding allows a much greater transaction throughput without having to sacrifice security of the chain, and it'll also let Ethereum nodes be run on less computationally powerful devices such as smartphones. I'll admit that I don't understand ZK-SNARKs well, but the high-level view is that maths involving polynomials and homomorphic encryption can allow someone to prove that the results of a computation are true without the prover having to reveal their initial inputs to the verifier. Really cool stuff. There's also a working implementation of ZK-SNARKs in a cryptocurrency called Zcash, which allows transactions to be verified without publicly revealing knowledge of who is sending or receiving the currency, or how much currency is sent. Ethereum is better than Bitcoin, yes. Bitcoin doesn't have built-in smart contract functionality. There is a project called Rootstock which does this for Bitcoin, but it's a sidechain and is probably nowhere near as effective or widely adopted as Ethereum. Ethereum has a more realistic roadmap towards scaling globally. Sharding will significantly increase Ethereum's transaction rate and is a planned upgrade, rather than Bitcoin, which had a disputed hard fork called Segregated Witness, or SegWit, in order to increase the block size limit. A lot of people disliked this, and they kept using the non-SegWit version of Bitcoin, now called Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin also has yet another sidechain for processing faster transactions called the Lightning Network. As far as I'm aware, there's no plan for Bitcoin to move away from proof of work at all. I could be wrong though. There could be someone watching this right now, screaming at their computer because the moron presenting said the wrong thing. Smash that subscribe button if you think the presenter is a moron. Bitcoin's main chain also has no native support for tokens or NFTs. Tokens are digital assets that are tracked on the Ethereum chain using smart contracts. They can be used to represent shares in a DAO, tickets, or currency. There is a special type of token called a non-fungible token, or NFT. Fungibility refers to how like-for-like an asset is, so cash is highly fungible as you can easily trade a dollar for a dollar. A token that is not fungible would be used to represent something unique, such as an artwork, which brings us to the most important part of the talk. Folks, it is with great pride and accomplishment that I now announce the official WAHCKon Mini Badge. The badge this year, just like the convention itself, is 100% virtual. It was created on the Proof of Attendance Protocol platform, which allows you to create NFTs that represent digital badges for presentation at events. If you want one, now's the time to post your burner email address in the chat and you'll get an email from me with further instructions on how to claim your badge. This isn't an official WAHCKon email address, it's just for this year's badge, so ignore any other emails from it. And also, never ever trust any emails that ask you to send crypto to random addresses. It is a scam. You are being scammed. Don't be scammed. Thanks. And that's it. Thanks for listening. Now handing over to Future Me for maybe a live Q&A.
Whoa! Holy shit!
That was actually my favorite talk.
Wow, that was my favorite.
That
talk.
actually was my favorite talk of the evening.
Jeez.
I know I've said that a lot, but it's true in this and all the other situations.
Jeez,
Oh,
alright.
man.
Well, hook us up for one of those burner NFTs, buddy.
Yeah,
'Cause
son.
I can see those mooning real soon.
Did we get any questions emailed to us, my friend?
Oh yeah.
But if you do
check
want
the
your,
emails. Did we get questions?
your non-official
Well,
badge,
I mean, it's hard to tell if we've got any questions because the chat is lighting up with burner email addresses coming through for those NFTs. Oh yeah.
That's actually my favorite NFT. So just want to say thank you for attending WAHCKon Mini. That was our last talk of the evening. I think this has been an incredibly successful event. Happy 420. It's the high holiday. Thank you for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful 420. Thank you. Now, isn't 420 significant for a few reasons?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just-
There's no hidden.
It's
benefit.
just the high holiday. All right.
No,
okay.
there's nothing to do with 420. Like honestly,
Yeah, okay.
it's April 20 today. There is nothing significant about that day
Wow.
whatsoever.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Let's smash the button. Let's watch the video from some local artists. And again, thank you for coming so much. We love you all.
The pandemic has been difficult on all industries, including the InfoSec industry. We all know that InfoSec has struggled hard through the pandemic. But there are other industries that have equally struggled hard. So the local creative industries like local live music and stuff have really struggled to make it through. WAHCKon is doing its best to support local live WA artists such as Loss and Swali.
We've had a question. Bonzi Panic when? Bonzi Panic will be released at our next con / release party. And that will be occurring after everyone has had a chance to be vaccinated in this wonderful country that can't seem to get a vaccine rollout right.
Yeah.
After
everyone has had the Moderna 420 vaccination, everyone is, equally vaccinated, then we will have the Bonzi Panic release party.
So rather than hosting a super spreader event like so many other cons, we're going to, do the responsible thing and not do that.
Or we might just host a WAHCKon super spreader event where we...
An exclusive super spreader event. Oh, dude, we could get a ton of doorknobs and everyone could take turns licking them. We could, mount 50 doorknobs on, a big board or something. I think that'd be a good idea.
Roll the video.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys. We will see you next time again. And we'll see you later, son.
WAHCKon.